की सीख रहा. Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very nice. Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very nice. Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very nice. Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very pineapple, looking very good, very nice. Good morning, pineapple, looking very good, very nice. Good morning, pineapple, looking very good, very nice. Good morning, pineapple, looking very good, very pineapple, looking very good, very nice. Good morning, pineapple, looking very good, very nice. Good morning, pineapple.
Actually represents pretty accurately, mathematically, how the country is divided over the question of the presidency. But if you look at this is what the party pickups would be for congressional districts. Republicans, 5, Missouri 1, North Carolina 1, Ohio 2 or 3, Indiana 1 or 2, Florida, still discussion down there, but that could be another gold mine for them if they tipped it even further their way. Kansas 1, New Hampshire 1, and Nebraska. Democrats, Utah, California, Maryland. Look at this. If you offset California and Texas, Missouri and Utah, North Carolina and Maryland, everything left over is an advantage to the Republicans. And don't forget, the Supreme Court is considering what could really be the end of the Voting Rights Act, which would protect minority groups. So you don't have a state that's half black, for example, that elects only one congressional member and everybody else goes to the Republicans that would represent that population in some way. So if that is gutted, Democrats could lose 19 seats. This would be a huge amount. But this is also a measure of how much the White House is concerned about this, because Donald Trump knows if the Democrats get the House again, there could be new investigations, just like last time. There could be a new impeachment. There could be a lot of impediment to these plans that right now the Republicans in the House and Senate are letting run like a freight train.
Yeah.
Oh, CNN never changed. Good morning. What else? What other news network will we have to pull clips at to laugh, to gawk? Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm Austin Peterson. We're glad and thankful to have you here. Drew Van Ronkel pointing out the obvious. Blacks are automatically Democrats. I almost forgot. No. Well, maybe yes. Let's ask Kira Davis. She's one who told us to wake up and be racist. Hey, man. Or did I put those words in her mouth? Good morning. We're just kidding. Brad Beckman's here. Drew Van Ronkel. Ike giving his shits. Dad Bod Baboon. We're talking about Republican domination of the House of Representatives if the Supreme Court finds a certain way, and it looks like they're going to do it. This is kind of big. This is big news. Are we going to talk about the juicy gossip of leaked texts amongst the young Republicans? Sure we are. Is Camellia going to be on the show today because she got roasted by the young Republicans, or at least the Groyper community? Yes, it's hilarious. We're going to have a fun show today. Today's show is going to be an absolute blast. So if you're looking to be in a good mood to start your day, you are in the right place. For the next hour and 50 minutes, we're going to pack in so much fun in this show. You're not even going to know what hit you. You're going to be informed. You're going to laugh. You're going to be hypnotized, and you're going to buy my merch.
Can you bless me with something?
Oh, gosh.
Money wars.
Doth not tread on me. So if you would like to help to support the Wake Up America show, don't forget those Rumble rants that you turn in today. Everybody who wants to donate today is going to get to play a game to win a big prize today. And we are going to give away a big prize on the show at the end of the show. So all of your Rumble rants and your purchases during the shop to help unlock our mini documentary bonus content today are going to be counted, and we will play no matter how much we raise, because it's going to be fun. And I want you guys to see how the game show mode wins. So go ahead and buy some merch over at the shop, or drop a Rumble rant, and you will be rewarded, guaranteed, at the end of the show. Must be present to win. So you're tuned into the Wake Up America show, where the coffee's hot, news is hotter, Liberty's still hanging out, still packing a punch, still moving the ideas forward. Still fighting for liberty here, going on 70 years. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. I'm broadcasting from the free state of Missouri. Freedom is more than a word here. It's a way of life. It's in our blood here in Missouri. We got any Missourians in the chat? Let's get some hands. Where's my Missouri people at? Let's turn on the news ticker too, guys, so you can stay super informed. In case I go off topic, you can see what's happening. So buckle up, guys. Today's show is friggin' loaded. All right, top story this morning. It's a big one. It's about to shake the foundation of the Voting Rights Act here in the United States. If you're not keen on the law, just stick around. The Supreme Court heard Louisiana versus Camellia. This is a case that would rewrite how America draws its political maps. It's the battle over racial redistricting. And during oral arguments, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson compared black voters to Americans with disabilities. Yeah, she actually said, yes, they're disabled, not figuratively disabled. They're literally disabled, her exact words. And she wasn't talking off the cuff. She was arguing that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act works like the Americans with Disabilities Act, as if black voters are somehow handicapped, in need of permanent access ramps to the ballot box. That's not equality. That's just condescension with a law degree. Am I right? So we've got that on the docket today. We're going to dig into the details. What do the other justices say? How Louisiana got dragged into this mess, and why the court seems poised to curtail one of the most controversial parts of the Voting Rights Act. This is so huge. We're going to talk about the tension between equality before the law, and then, of course, the left's addiction to racial engineering. It's going to be a fantastic segment. You will be informed. You will scream, you will cry, you will pee your pants. But don't forget before that to click the like button. And if today is your first time watching the Wake Up America show and you're like, oh, damn, this is good content. He's not just a goofy guy with a pineapple. He's got some ideas. So, yeah, we do have some ideas here. We stand for liberty. We are, many of us, and certainly I am, libertarian nationalists, love our country, love our flag, believe in duty, honor, virtues. And we'd love to have you be a regular guest if you stand for those things as well. If you want to support the Wake Up America show for free and hang out and get, notifications when we go live, just click that follow button over on Rumble. If you're not watching us on Rumble, you should be watching us on Rumble, because that's where all of our community is. And we have one of the very few, maybe the only, positive, healthy, upbeat, friendly liberty communities in the whole country. Are we tough? Sure. But we're like the pineapple. We're a little spiky on the outside, but we're sweet on the inside. You know what I'm saying? That's what the pineapple is for. It's not some weird swinger thing. You guys are disgusting. And if that wasn't enough news to get to a whole 2-hour show, the Politico email leaks have blown up the GOP from coast to coast. Racist and anti-Semitic messages from party staffers, leaders across the country scrambling to respond. It's a mess. And now there's a civil war on the right over how to handle it. Even Vice President this wouldn't really even be a story if Vice President J.D. Vance hadn't said anything, but he jumped in and he called the staffers kids who made mistakes. Of course, the problem is that these are kids with paychecks, and they have power, so they're not. Oh, they're just little dopey kids on playing Call of Duty, saying the N-word. It's different. There's something at stake, and it's impacting politics across the country. It's happening here in Missouri. It's happening in Texas. Right here in Missouri, former state rep Chris Lonsdale is blasting the director of the GOP here in Missouri, Peter Kinder, for condemning the comments. Meanwhile, Adam Schwadron backed Peter Kinder, and suddenly everybody's fighting like it's a barroom brawl at a CPAC after party. I've seen those things. It can get pretty wild. Usually fat men and fatter women. There are some hot Republicans. It's true. But those are the ones that get put on the cover of the magazine. Zoom out and it's a lot of Indian men. who don't like taxes. Siggy's mom says, here's today for today's game. I must have missed yesterday's, but I'm heading over to order more Franklin's Electric Elixir right now. Yes, do it, Siggy's mom. And if you really like Electric Elixir, get yourself a subscription, because then you can either have it come into your door either every 2 weeks, every month, every 2 months, every 3 months, and then you'll never run out depending on how much you use it. Electric Elixir is friggin' delicious, Siggy's mom. Good choice. And everybody who donates today is going to be eligible to play the game. And we are playing the game today on the show. I'll explain it in just a minute, but I don't want to have Camellia be like, come on, let's talk about the juicy drama, because she's going to be on the show today. She's already rip-roaring, ready to go. She's foaming at the mouth. She's champing at the bit, not chomping at the bit. She's champing at the bit to be on the show because she's already commenting, and she says, oh, you need to help me to remember to talk about Lonsdale. Bless his whole heart, LOL loser. Whoa, hey. So this is how we treat our 31, 38-year-old, 40-year-olds. Maybe some of these people want an actual state senator. They're just a baby. They're just a baby. So we're going to talk about this drama with Camellia Peterson at 8 a.m. She stood up with Peter Kinder, the establishment. Oh, no. And she got absolutely ratioed on X for daring to say decency isn't optional. I mean, you talk about her cheeks being red. They're going to be so red today. But of course, but I also stood up and defended Camellia, because that's what you do with your friends. I don't care what people say. Camelia's legit. She stood with Kinder. She got ratioed on X. Probably some brown people from Pakistan were doing it. We'll talk about what happens when moral clarity becomes controversial inside the conservative movement. Morality has always been controversial amongst libertarians, but no more. And now it used to be pretty solid in conservative circles, but now they've just sort of abandoned everything for the naked quest for power. And you know what? In some ways, I sort of admire it. I sort of appreciate it, because it used to be that people would play with masks on. Now everybody's got their masks off. And I actually think that that's how I like to play the game. Stop pretending like you like me and say how you really feel. Reminds me of the time, and I'm going to Colorado Saturday. Reminds me of the time I went to Colorado. I'll never forget this for the rest of my life. And this man comes up to me, and I was not supposed to be there. I was disinvited. They said that I was not welcome at the Libertarian Party's presidential debate in Colorado in 2016. And you know what I did? I got in my truck and I drove my ass over there across the country, and I got there anyway. And I violated their NEP. And I took power, and I walked up onto that stage. And right before I went on stage, this man walks up to me, and he gave me a microphone. He looks me in the eyes, and he says, Austin, you're a real piece of shit. And I go, you know what? There's a lot of people that say stuff like that about me and worse online every day, all day. You're the only one who's had the guts to come up and look me in the face and tell it to me like a man. And I respected him like a man. And we are still friends to this day. True story. And then years later, he's like, Austin, you were right about everything. I should have voted for you. You damn right you should have. You wouldn't have all these problems with Nazis and Jews and freaking, Voting Rights Act would have been overturned a long time ago. We would have had a flat tax. There would have been no tariffs. Our economy would be soaring. We'd all be so getting rich. You'd have a second house by now. You'd be like Bernie Sanders rich if I had been the president of the United States. You know what I'm saying? You're in the right place if you love freedom. We're not going to mince words. No play around. Everybody who donates today is going to be a winner, and everybody who donates today or purchases from the shop gets an entry to play our brand new great grift-off game mode at the end of the show. So stick around. If you made a donation, if you made a Rumble rant, if you're like Joel Ledamore, if you're like, or you're like Siggy's mom and you made a donation, you are now entered to win the prize drawings at the end. We're going to play a little game, and the winner gets a grand prize, but everybody who donates and everybody who plays in the game is going to win something. So there you go. Here's how it works. Everybody who donates during the show is automatically entered. You log in on your phone. You play along live. The game lasts 5 glorious minutes of freedom-flavored chaos. Everybody's going to win something from the Grift Shop. One lucky grand prize winner is going to take home something extra special. You have to be present to win, so stick around. Don't leave today if you made a donation. Stick around to the end. Keep the rants and donations coming because, of course, when we hit $100, then that unlocks the mini documentary. So But the game is going to be played today. Even if we don't hit $200, it's fine. No matter what, no matter how many players to play, we're going to play with as many people as donate and show up at the end of the game. So stick around because somebody's going to win today. And if you want to support the cause and look good doing it, of course, head over to forlibertyshop.com, the only store where every t-shirt comes with a side of free speech. I'm wearing my Doth Not Tread on Me shirt. I get so many compliments on the show, the shirts that I wear from the Wake Up America show. Ike Giving a Shits is in. He says, fool and money parted. There you go. Ike, make sure you're at the end of the show today. We're going to have a fun time. We're going to play Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? We're going to laugh. We're going to cry. And somebody's going to walk away with a really nice prize from the shop. Okay? So that's the lineup. Supreme Court's racial redistricting showdown and the GOP's moral meltdown from Missouri to Washington and Camellia Peterson standing her ground and with the establishment. No. And then if we have time, Patrick Casey at the end on the Blackpilled right. The great grift-off game at the very end where everybody wins. Can you imagine what it must take to produce this show every single day with all those elements, all those stories, all these guests? Just, can you bless me with something?
Can you bless me with something?
Oh gosh.
Money wise. Please.
Can you donate?
What?
Thanks, guys. Voting Rights Act. Key portion might be overturned. It'll affect us here in Missouri, too. Take a listen.
I guess I'm thinking of it, of the fact that remedial action, absent discriminatory intent, is really not a new idea in the civil rights laws. And my kind of paradigmatic example of this is something like the ADA. Congress passed the Americans
So ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act.
with Disabilities Act against the backdrop of a world that was generally not accessible to people with disabilities. And so it was discriminatory in effect because these folks were not able to access these buildings. And it didn't matter whether the person who built the building or the person who owned the building intended for them to be exclusionary. That's irrelevant. Congress said the facilities have to be made equally open to people with disabilities if readily possible. I guess I don't understand why that's not what's happening here. The idea in Section 2 is that we are responding to current day manifestations of past and present decisions that disadvantage minorities and make it so that they don't have equal access to the voting system, right? They're disabled. In fact, we use the word disable in Milligan. We say that's a way in which you see that these processes are not equally open.
Do you ever notice how power is always trying to dress itself up as kindness? We offer protection. We offer fairness. And then it coddles groups into this perpetual dependency so that they never really outgrow their chains. This is what is at its core with this, what you just watched unfold there. This is during oral arguments in Louisiana versus Kelly. That was Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. She actually said that the black voters are disabled. So these folks were not able to access the facilities. It didn't matter whether the person who built the building intended for them to be exclusionary. We use the word disable as a way in which these processes are not equally open. So let that sink in. She's telling an entire class of Americans, her own class of people there, not as individuals, but as a collective, you're disabled. So she's judicializing pity. Right? To understand why this is more than an ugly remark, you have to see this in the context of the battlefield that is at play in front of us. So this case is Louisiana versus Kelly. This is Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Section 2 was enacted in 1965 to prevent racial discrimination in voting. No state or locality can use practices or devices that deny or abridge the right to vote on account of race or color. Over decades, courts interpreted Section 2 to allow race-conscious redistricting or race-conscious districting in certain circumstances where minority populations are large and geographically compact. So when there's evidence of past discrimination, when voting is racially polarized, and when something like racially unfair practices prevent meaningful political participation. One landmark case, this was from 2023, Allen versus Milligan. The Supreme Court reaffirmed that states may be required to create majority-minority districts. What a word or phrase. To remedy discriminatory effects of previous maps. Milligan essentially held that Section 2 still matters. Racially discriminatory maps will not be allowed to stand. Now, enter Calais, Louisiana story. So in a 2022 map, only one majority black district, despite blacks comprising 33% of Louisiana's population. And a federal court found that that map violated Section 2 and ordered them to redraw their map. In 2024, Louisiana created a second majority black district. Some non-black voters sued. They claim that basing districts on race violates the 14th Amendment Equal Protection Clause. And I agree. I love the 14th Amendment. And a district court agreed, barred the map, and the state appealed. So the Supreme Court now has to decide, is Section 2, the Voting Rights Act, the requirement of race-conscious redistricting, is it constitutional? Or has it become the thing that it once opposed? So we have this constitutional tension, right? The Voting Rights Act as a statute, right, against the Equal Protection Clause, which is a constitutional guarantee. Which prevails when the two seem to clash? One would hope that the Supreme Court would rule that the Constitution prevails over a statute. So let's go into this disability analogy that Ketanji Brown Jackson used. And let's talk about why it's poisonous. Just a moment. So if you treat citizens as disabled, what are you doing, right? You're removing their agency. They have no ability. They're disabled, so they have no agency. You're replacing any kind of initiative that person might have, and you're declaring guardianship over them, right? You're standing in between them and whatever obstacles that you perceive to be in their way. So you're helicopter parenting to a certain extent. That's what the government is doing. It's nanny stating, right? You're substituting identity for action, right? This is what you might consider to be a benevolent tyranny. It's here to help you, right? I'm from the government and I'm here to help, right? And we all know how that turns out. So here's another historical lens on this. During the Jim Crow era, the segregationists defended separate but equal by saying that blacks were in a different condition, needing different treatment. That doctrine collapsed when the court said that separate is inherently unequal. But here we are, we're now resegregating political power by race, resurrecting distinctions under a new name. And this is more than just a metaphor. If you look up a case from 1974, Milliken versus Bradley, the court used handicaps language, talking about racial disadvantages as handicaps. Jackson reaches into this playbook from this case as we say that's a way in which these processes are not inherently open. They're not equally open. We use the word disabled. That's a way in which these processes are not equally open. Thank you, Andy. He's got a gamer pass for the end of the show. Make sure you stick around. It's going to be a lot of fun. So when you speak of disabilities, what does that invite? When you say, oh, someone's disabled, what's the first thing? What do they say as soon as you're like, oh, I got a disabled uncle? Aww. Right. It invites pity. Right? Isn't that what it does? It invites pity. It makes people feel sorry for that person, right? So you're asking for us to feel sorry for you if you were born with a disability, or maybe you incurred a disability halfway through life, right? There's automatically going to be pity assigned to that. So you invite that. You also invite perhaps some level of dependency. And that is not to say that all people who are handicapped are in a form of dependency. There are plenty of abled, handicapped people who have seen the speed bumps in the road ahead of them. There are plenty of disabled people who have seen the trials and tribulations and who have run the gauntlet anyway, or maybe not run the gauntlet, Austin. Maybe careful. You make so many retarded jokes, Austin. You take it easy. All this does is pathologize identity. Right? Rather, it doesn't affirm identity. It makes an identity an illness. And you reinforce the notion that some people must be managed, not trusted. And it's not a theoretical debate. The consequences of this are very real, and they're enormous. What could occur if this case turns out? It could have enormous implications for our nation and our future.
Actually represents pretty accurately, mathematically, how the country is divided over the question of the presidency. But if you look at this is what the party pickups would be for congressional districts. Republicans, 5. Missouri, 1. North Carolina, 1. Ohio, 2 or 3. Indiana, 1 or 2. Florida, still discussion down there, but that could be another gold mine for them if they tipped it even further their way. Kansas 1, New Hampshire 1, and Nebraska. Democrats, Utah, California, Maryland. Look at this. If you offset California and Texas, Missouri and Utah, North Carolina and Maryland, everything left over is an advantage to the Republicans.
Yes.
And don't forget, the Supreme Court is considering what could really be the end of the Voting Rights Act, which would protect minority groups. So you don't have a state that's half black, for example, that elects only one congressional member and everybody else goes to the Republicans that would represent that population in some ways. So if that is gutted, Democrats could lose 19 seats. This would be a huge amount. But this is also a measure of how much the White House is concerned about this, because Donald Trump knows if the Democrats get the House again, there could be new investigations, just like last time. There could be a new impeachment. There could be a lot of impediment to these plans that right now the Republicans in the House and Senate are letting run like a freight train.
Yeah.
Yes. Winning. Thormock wants to leaven my excitement by saying, swing the pendulum completely the other way. Nothing can go wrong there, right? God, what's with the black pilling?
No, God, please, no.
Good morning, good morning. You slept the whole night through. Good morning to you. So this is not a theoretical debate we're talking about here. These are real world consequences of this Supreme Court decision that could shape the future of this nation. The states as they are now, they end up sprawling with all the gerrymandering. You've got these contorted district maps. African-American District 1 goes through 12 parishes, snakes across highways, jumps rivers, just to pack pigment in to a certain area. You got enough blacks in this, box them in. Put them in the hot box. When districts are built to guarantee one-party outcomes, elections become theatrical. Incumbents, of course, are always protected and safe, and the voters are spectators. Representatives become group representatives, not individual representatives. Your race becomes your platform in that district. And the worst of all, black voters are taught that their political value lies in their skin, not their ideas. Of course, intellectual infantilization is the norm. If you doubt what I'm saying, take a look at the data. The Cook Political Report finds that many so-called safe majority minority districts are, some of the least competitive in Congress. Majority minorities. The majorities in this district are minorities. I had to hear that a few times the first time that I heard that. I remember, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, somebody said majority minority districts. And I was like, majority minority. The majority are minority. The majority are a minority in these districts. The majority of them are minorities. oxymorons are also a very funny thing. So research from the Election Law Journal show that stacking race-based districts often reduces effective representation because minority voices get jammed into fewer seats, which dilutes their influence elsewhere, where they could have actually had an impact in a way that would benefit their local community where they actually live. They're getting distilled by the head of the district where the population center is the heaviest. You see this happening in so many ways in states across the country. So that's why the Supreme Court's next move matters so much. That's why this is going to be a monumental case. And sure, if you want to blackpill and give Thormack their due here, give the devil their due on this one, Thormack, what you have to consider is that in Missouri, for example, we have a supermajority of Republicans elected, but we do not have a supermajority of conservatives in the Republican Party. The majority, because the supermajority, and because people can run in whatever political party they choose to, they join a political party. They're like, oh, I'll just join this party because it's got the best chance to win and most people vote in this district, even if I'm a dirty, stinking Democrat. And we see a lot of that happening in Missouri. So therein lies a danger that sort of cancer metastasizes, but something's got to give in this country. Something's got to give. We can't go on as we are. We continue to gerrymander these districts in such a way so as to carve out a population of disabled people. Just keep the disabled people over there. You know, the blacks. They're disabled. Not my words. Supreme Court Justice of the United States. So John Fetterman's making a lot of sense these days.
I'm the only Democrat in my family. I grew up in a conservative part of Pennsylvania, and I grew up and I know and I love people that voted for President Trump. But they are not fascists. They're not Nazis. They're not trying to destroy the Constitution and those things. And that's part of another thing. I refuse to call people Nazis or fascists, or I would never compare anybody to Hitler and those things. And now that kinds of extreme rhetoric is going to continue. We're going to be more likely in resulting in extreme kind of outcomes and political violence and doing all these kinds of things like Charlie Kirk. For me, all I could say is like, let people grieve. Give people the space. I'm not going to use that terrible thing and that Pasek assassination to make my argument and try to put out my views. It's like, my God, you know, he's a father that had his neck blown out by a bullet. And now people have forgotten. President Trump was in my state, was shot in the head. And if that could you imagine where our nation would be if he was hit in the same way with Kirk? We really got to turn the temperature down. And we can agree to disagree on these kinds of things. But right now, shutting down the government, I just can't take it that. I'm the only Democrat in my...
It's just too bad you can't replicate that. So there's a lot riding on this Supreme Court decision. Do you guys remember Kara Davis I spoke to the other day? She observed that humans are naturally tribal, but the left keeps separating us per race and ethnicity for tribes. She said, we keep getting lumped into tribes of weirdos we don't want to be. She says libertarians get lumped in with the naked cyclists in Portland. Blacks get lumped with browns. They decide your tribe, not you. Did you guys see the interview that I did with Kara Davis the other day? Was it fantastic? I think Brad posted it. So that's exactly what racial redistricting is. It's a bureaucrat saying that you are this tribe. The blacks and the browns will vote together. The homosexuals and the Mexicans. That's this week. I'm a frito Benito. So this is what racial redistricting is, Austin. What's wrong with you? So you get this tribe, you vote with them. Your value lies in your pigment. It strips away, of course, all sense of individuality, and it presumes that your politics are from your skin color or your sexuality, right? And Kira also warned against the fatigue of identity politics, that she said she's tired of being lumped into a category, of being expected to speak for a race that she didn't even choose. She didn't choose it. She said, I think we're all racist now. She said, I mean, we all bear the burden of these forced identities until we reject them. God bless Kira Davis, man. She lives on the West Coast. So I'll tell you what, if she comes on this show, you better say thank you, Kira, because she gets up way early in the morning to come and join us here. So if you're a Black American who's ever said, I don't want to be spoken for, I want to speak for myself, then you see the madness of Ketanji Brown Jackson's remarks. She said, you're disabled. You cannot speak for yourself without our scaffolding. I mean, that's intellectual violence. Let's hear it for Kira Davis. She was amazing. So if the court strikes down or severely limits Section 2, dozens of heavily gerrymandered majority-minority districts across the country may be vulnerable. The very districts that serve as the base for many congressional Democrats would be at risk, even in here, including here in Missouri. Yes. So the doctrine of constitutional colorblindness would be reinforced. You'd have a major judicial guardianship break. The court would say, yes, we see past pigment. Yes, we treat you as citizens first. So if the court upholds Jackson's logic, though, we doom ourselves to decades of forced identity politics, judicial micromanaging of maps, and perpetual victim status for groups that are deemed, by her words, disadvantaged. All right, so let me close this this discussion. We'll move on to the GOP Politico scandal in just a second, and Camellia will be here at 8. So let's close this image. Looks like the bonus content's doing great, guys. Keep it up. In 1957, the Little Rock Nine walked into Central High School under federal guard, breaking the barrier that had segregated the races in schools. They walked in as individuals. They weren't carrying a group label on their backs. This wasn't about quotas. It wasn't about identity packaging, but the freedom to walk forward on your own legs. So when Jackson says that Black Americans are disabled, she's kind of forcing them into guarded entry zones, putting them into a gate. She's forcing them. She's turning the bayonets on the blacks and say, you're going into this district and you're going to like it, and this is how you're going to be represented by your race. She's rewriting the moral history of civil rights in a way that condemns individual agency. But if the court has the courage to say, no, the constitutional law will not allow racial engineering going forward, then we turn the page. We empower all Americans, regardless of skin, to speak, vote, lead, and invent their own politics. We'll be better off for it. The fight's not about red lines on a map. It's about whether we believe in America as a union of free individuals or a library of demographic classes. Thank you so much for tuning into the Wake Up America show. Today, we are delighted to have you as a guest. Would you please click the like button if you haven't already? If today's your first time watching the Wake Up America show, I would love to have you be a regular guest with us. We are a 5-day-a-week show, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. And if you click the follow button, you'll get a notification on your Rumble app, and we'll be very grateful for it. We're playing a game where you can win real prizes on the show today at the end of the show, 9 a.m. If you have made a contribution in the form of a Rumble rant, or if you have gone to the Liberty Shop this morning and made a purchase, each person who has done so is entered to win and to play the game at the end of the show. Everybody who plays will win something. One person will win one big grand prize. It's going to be a blast, and we're going to play it no matter what today. But we do have to hit the $100 bonus content to unlock the mini documentary. So we're at $67 raised right now, guys. Can you bless me with something?
Can you bless me with something?
Oh, gosh.
Money-wise. Please.
Can you suck it?
What? Head on over to the Grift Shop this morning. Every purchase that you make during the show goes to unlock that bonus content. Any Rumble rant that you make is going to get you a prize entry to win a great prize at the end of the show, and everybody gets to play on your phones at home. Brad over in the chat, BB for Liberty is his username. He's got all the details for how to play the game. So if you're confused about the entry, how do you play, what do we do? And so you've already given Rumble rant, you want to figure it out. He'll drop the link in there so that you guys can read all of the rules and regulations so that you can play today. And again, all you have to do to get an entry to win at the end of the game and play with at the end of the show and play with us is to make a Rumble rant contribution or go to the Grift Shop like somebody just did to help us unlock that bonus content. So thank you very much That's the nicest thing that anyone's ever done for me. The leak comes home. The Wrights family feud. So the national press just detonated a political stink bomb, and the smell's wafting out across the country. Sadly, it's very gross. But keep in mind this scandal, that a lot of this is a heavy distraction from another story happening at the same time.
A woman shot by a federal agent after allegedly ramming a law enforcement vehicle with her car near Chicago. Well, this woman was back in court today. Marimar Martinez appeared for an arraignment on the charge of assaulting federal officers. Her lawyer says body cam video can prove that she did not do it. CNN's Omar Jimenez is in Broadview, Illinois, outside the ICE facility that's been the epicenter of tension in the Chicago area.
That guy in the right there, he's the fiery but mostly peaceful guy.
Related to the Trump administration's crackdown on illegal immigration. Omar, what happened in court today?
Yeah, so for starters, she pleaded not guilty to essentially the government had accused her of impeding and assaulting law enforcement officers here, federal law enforcement officers. And one of the main disputes, just talking to her defense attorney, is whether she actually did ram this vehicle. The defense attorney is claiming that he has...
Is that the right clip, Austin? Whoops. Idiot. It's the wrong clip. My bad. Well, maybe I'll find it. We're going to have looks like we're going to actually hit the bonus content level. Phase 1. We might get to watch the mini documentary before Camellia comes on. We're $72 raised. Wow. Yeah, just like 28 more bucks in either Rumble Rants or in purchases of the shop will unlock the mini documentary. So you can see that before Camellia comes on. So let's play before we play the game at the end of the show. Let's play the game right now. It's called the Family Feud game, Young Republican Edition. 2,900 pages of Telegram chats from young Republican leaders across multiple states. Boys will be boys. It was a grotesque stew of slurs, gas chamber jokes, the typical Call of Duty fare. Praise for Hitler, rape jokes, right? This is the reporting. And the fallout was pretty fast and messy. GOP leaders in multiple states condemned the content. Some demanded resignations. In Kansas next door, the state party outright deactivated its Young Republicans chapter. Gone, offline. President J.D. Vance is trying to triage the blowback by saying that basically kids do stupid things, even though many of these chatters are in their 20s to 30s and held real jobs in government. That's fine. He's playing his job as a tack dog. That's his job as VP. And it's not dorm chat. Some of these people were actually in and or around government. And it certainly wasn't locker room talk because some of these people are so friggin' fat. They've never seen the inside of a locker room. I promise you that. Where the rest of us all go to get clean after we work out. Sicky's mom says, I'm good friends with a woman here in North Carolina who's heavily involved with young Republicans, and she was positively appalled about that whole thing. She was very vocal about that on Flakebook. Yeah, it's normie. If you're a normie and you're looking in at this story, it is different from people like ourselves who are way more up to speed. We see such bigger stories on a daily basis that it's like, oh yeah, this is a nothing burger, like Mongoose 87 has said, and I believe Steven Crowder has said. But when it comes into my house, which is Camellia Peterson every Tuesday and Thursday on the show, and she's getting ratioed on Twitter for her views, you know that we are here at the forefront of the drama. And it's happening here in Missouri. We've got state representatives at each other's throats. See that little 58 degrees in Jefferson City, Missouri? Right? We're at ground zero for this battle. It's happening right here in the city, in the town where I am, and it involves someone who is a frequent guest and friend of the Wake Up America show. We love Camellia. So it's a story for us. Let's sketch the facts so you're not relying on vibes. Politico's reporting. The chat included racist and antisemitic slurs, no shit, gas chamber references, and praise for Hitler. One of those jokes I wrote. One participant wrote, I love Hitler, which is kind of funny sometimes if it's just ironically. But I think it does matter if it's ironic or unironic, doesn't it? Condemnations and calls for resignations from Republicans and Democrats, and of course, Time, ABC, PBS, and others corroborate the contours, condemnations, firings, and a national debate about standards inside the GOP. Right. So the gubernatorial race in Virginia right now is super hot. Winsome Earl Sears, fantastic woman. Hope that she wins. Was asked by her opponent, I believe, Abigail Spanberger, to condemn the things that they said. The people who said that should be condemned, and you should ask them to resign. Abigail Spanberger, the Democrat woman, white Democrat woman attacking the black Republican woman. What a crazy race out there in Virginia. Said, you have to tell them to condemn them and tell them to resign. And Winsome Earl Sears just turned around and she says, no problem, I did. Now you do the same. That's a tough lady. And she did it. She's, she condemned him, told him to resign, and then said, let's sow the Democrats out for what they were, that they wouldn't do it for their own people. She's fantastic. Please let her win in Virginia, please. Look at me, advocating against the Voting Rights Act on the other, majority-minority districts on one hand, and celebrating a black woman becoming the governor of Virginia, female black governor of Virginia. You don't know what Austin thinks. The Kansas Republican Party deactivated its Young Republican chapter after identifying leaders named in the chats. The local outlets are detailing the timeline and names. It wasn't hypothetical. But here's where it hits in Missouri. So local news in our region captured it plainly. Kansas, Missouri GOP condemn racist messages linked to Young Republicans in Politico's story. And that's KMBC. That was updated last night. The Missouri Republican leadership joined a growing list of state parties publicly denouncing the content. And that condemnation matters because inside the right, you now have two loud factions colliding. Those who say that you need to draw a bright moral line between certain types of behavior that are unacceptable. Speech like this is poison. If you wear the jersey, then you live by the jersey's code, right? It'd be like, don't show up to the bris wearing a Nazi swastika armband if you don't want people to think maybe you're a Nazi. Rakata, Donai, Eloheinu, oy vey, there's a Nazi in my bris. People are going to think you're a Nazi. Why should you be surprised? Right, but then there's the other side of this, right? Who say that private chats, edgy jokes, we were all young once, right? Don't nuke these people's careers, which is essentially, this is what J.D. Vance is arguing, that, kids do stupid things arguments. But as we did yesterday, let's get the facts straight first and then we can distort them as we please. I'm excited to have Camellia on here in 10 minutes, guys. Don't you want to see the bonus content before she comes on? This is going to be such a stinking amazing show today. So the tension is turning this into a family feud up and down the ladder, from state parties to legislators to influencers, activists, lobbyists, and regular guests of the Wake Up America show. ABC documents Republicans demanding resignations. PBS is chronicling the bipartisan outrage, and Time magazine reports Vance downplaying it while other GOP figures are condemning it. This isn't a neat party line. This is a real crack. And why is this different from the usual Twitter fire drill of drama? Like Elon's going to have a 156th baby with his 150th wife. So here's the uncomfortable part. Some of those people in the chats, these people weren't just anonymous randos with anime avatars. Like some of these are chairs, vice chairs, chiefs of staff, and operatives who help make actual policy and candidate decisions. The Kansas coverage confirms titles and immediate consequences. National outlets corroborate people losing jobs or being forced out, and that raises the stakes. So now we're not debating a meme anymore, whether it was offensive, right? We're debating about the standards for wielding power in these parties. But once standards become the question, you get three predictable aftershocks. So there's brand damage, okay? Which if you own a brand, that's a real thing, and you try and protect your brand and try and keep your brand, trading high. You will always want your stock to be trading high, figuratively speaking. The GOP spends a news cycle explaining this isn't who we are, while Democrats and the press says, yes, it is. Of course, ABC and Guardian coverage are like, this is who they are. This is who they are. And then, of course, there's a backlash from the base, which is the building anger from the activists who feel that leadership is always quicker to condemn their own than fight the opposition. And in some cases, I think that is true. That's the subtext in Vance's defense. Don't ruin lives over edgy jokes. And I can see some facts to that, some truth to that. And then, of course, there's factionalization. So state level fissures widen, local rivalries go national, social feeds become circular firing squads. And Kansas is a clear example of swift structural consequences. Missouri's condemnation shows that we're in the same blast radius as Kansas right now. We're not a bystander. So our state party, my state party, of which I'm a member, has publicly condemned the messages on record. And that choice creates intra-party friction with activists and younger operatives who hear condemnation as capitulation. So the KMBC 9 News in Kansas City, the regional piece names Missouri alongside Kansas in the condemnations tied to these political revelations. And then there's the national split with Vance defending the kids while GOP leaders, I use the kids in quotes because they're not kids, and GOP leaders elsewhere, some people are kind of trying to ride the fence on this one, like Arizona. But here's the thing. So here's the principle, because, our audience is smart enough to hold two ideas at once. Idea A, free people say ugly things in private. The state shouldn't punish speech. Indiscretion shouldn't equal life sentences in the political gulag. And then idea B, if you're in leadership or you're aiming for it, words aren't just vibes. They are signals of your judgment. When you joke about gas chambers, rape, or celebrate Hitler, you're not being edgy. You're kind of broadcasting a moral unseriousness that is incompatible with wielding power in a legitimate, lawful, constitutional republic. So you can be a civil libertarian about speech and rigorous about standards for those who want authority. That is not hypocrisy. That is not hypocrisy. That's adulthood. And the public gets that. The question is whether the political ecosystems still can understand that. The right believes deeply in merit, responsibility, and civilization. So when our own folks traffic in the sewer, voters ask, do you believe what you say about civilization? Or is that just branding, right? Families and faith and freedom and flag and all this stuff. Moral virtues and courage. Do you believe in it? Is it just branding? And then when the leaders respond clumsily, if they're overcorrecting or they look indifferent, right, the base reads that as betrayal. And you saw this in the cross pressures in coverage. YRNF, their own board is condemning it. State parties are moving hard, and the vice president is saying that this isn't worth careers being destroyed. That's the split of the baby, as Andy has operated. So when you say splitting the baby like a pro, you're avoiding saying something one way or another, Andy. All I'm saying, I have strong opinions about these things. I do. But before I color your thoughts with my opinions on things, I at least like to, with the caveat that I'm biased as hell and have strong opinions, I like to try and give everybody the stakes so that we can really have the most interesting and intellectually stimulating discussion on things like this. And maybe we reach a resolution. Maybe we decide. Maybe we can figure out what's right from wrong. If it's right, I don't want to be wrong. So more names are surfacing in local markets. The press and opposition researchers are already combing through these logs. Kansas reporting shows how fast the locals moved on this. So some state parties are going to demand resignations to clear the air. Others are going to try and censure and then move on. The mixed cues from national Republicans are going to guarantee uneven enforcement, so it's just a mess. Whoever urges firm accountability gets accused of feeding cancel culture. Whoever defends the chatters gets accused of winking at bigotry. That dynamic is already in the coverage of Vance versus the state chairs and YRNF. So here's where our backyard comes into focus. Missouri Republicans have joined the chorus condemning the content tied to the Politico report. That is by itself the correct moral signal, and it is a fact on the record. But it also triggered what always follows, intra-party heat online, especially for the people who said so out loud. One of those people is Camellia Peterson. She publicly supported the stance that this kind of rhetoric is unacceptable for anyone representing the party. After that, she got loud pushback on X. She got dogpiled from some corners of the grassroots who read any denunciation as an establishment shiv. And then that wave of replies that Camellia was getting and the quote tweets in this kind of classic social media pattern. Yesterday, the guillotine was brought out for Camellia. And of course, the right eats its own. So we'll let Camellia herself describe the exact cadence and the content of what she faced, because first-person accounts beat screenshots. So before we bring her in, I want to set a civilized baseline for this conversation. We can oppose real cancel culture and still say some things are beyond the pale for party leaders and staff. We can defend due process and still insist that people that are entrusted with public power use grown-up judgment. And we can hate the media double standard and still police our own house. Thank you, Amy J. Eves. The bonus content is on the way. Camellia Peterson is after. We're going to have a blast. Everybody who donated today is going to be eligible to win a prize at the end of the show today. And one grand prize winner is going to take something home real nice. I'll get you something real nice. But you must be present to win, so don't miss a single minute of the Wake Up America show. And it's on the 4 Liberty Network.
Picture this. It's 1776. Thomas Jefferson is hunched over his desk at Monticello, ink-stained algo speak, how social media is transforming the future of language. The kids these days have a lot of silly euphemisms. Porn becomes corn, sex becomes segs. Nipples are nip-nops, and a picture of an eggplant can stand in for a penis. Killing someone becomes unaliving them, and people Kermit Sewerslied instead of committing suicide. Everything slightly risque or unpleasant becomes baby talk. But not because teens are overgrown infants. It's a bottom-up response to top-down censorship. As social media has become a bigger part of modern life, platforms have adopted elaborate policies to appease advertisers and politicians who might not be happy with the content that people organically share. Besides simply deleting content and banning creators, sites can subtly nudge users, algorithmically promoting certain sorts of content while demoting others. The policies are often frustratingly opaque, but many users have figured out well what will or won't anger the invisible censor. That doesn't stop them from talking about taboo topics. For the younger generation, social media is often the first and only place to learn about various elements of the world they live in, and sometimes those elements include sex, drugs, violence, and politics. So teenagers have come up with an elaborate system of cheeky substitutes for words that would otherwise get their content shadow banned. Emojis and wordplay form a language. Adam Alexic explores this algo speak in a book of the same name. Alexic runs Etymology Nerd, a popular TikTok channel that explores linguistics and the broader social issues around language. He learned through trial and error what the algorithm would reward and punish. For example, when he made a video analyzing the controversy around the slogan, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," he found his view count shrank by 90%. So much for politicians' claims that China was using TikTok to push anti-Israel incitement. In another video, Alexic discussed how the word fascism and a slur for gay men came from the same Latin root, fascies, meaning a bundle of sticks. Even though he was careful to self-censor by spelling the slur as effigat, the app still caught on and threatened to suspend him for homophobic language. Thus, the need for creative workarounds. As Alexic notes, minced oaths and rhyming slang are not new. God damn it to hell became gosh darn it to heck in the vocabulary of religious Christians, and ass became bottle and glass in the Cockney dialect. But the new euphemistic treadmill is far more artificially driven. Someone might use a minced oath because they believe it is impolite or impious to curse in public. Kids today say unalive because a faceless institution will punish them for saying kill. On one hand, algospeak could be interpreted as a straightforward example of censorship failing. Neither outright repression nor subtle incentives can get people to stop talking about the things they care about. Teenagers in particular are pretty savvy at getting around rules that they don't respect. Speech always finds a way. On the other hand, isn't it a little disturbing that American kids are being trained to talk like subjects of a dictatorship? That teens have recreated from first principles the kinds of veiled metaphors and hushed tones familiar to people hiding from the secret police? Worse still, this self-censorship is largely voluntary. For the most part, Americans are not in danger of police dragging them out of their houses for violating social media guidelines. Stimulation, attention, and the prospect of perhaps making some money from that attention are enough to get users caring about the demands of the algorithm. Then again, social media is where the hip conversations happen now. People who want to be a part of those conversations have to be on social media, and that means working around the arbitrary and ever-changing demands of its custodians. At the end of the day, the algorithm is not primarily a political tool. It is a formula for figuring out which users are most likely to engage with which content, allowing social media companies to sell hyper-targeted ads. AlgoSpeak documents the symbiotic relationship between advertising and the proliferation of tiny online subcultures. Would you describe your fashion sense as goblin core? How about cybergoth? The algorithm can find you both like-minded people and products to buy. AlgoSpeak sometimes veers into woke cliches that feel about 5 years out of date. The concept of cool began as a concealed act of resistance against the straight white norms of the English language. Alexic writes in a chapter titled "It's Giving Appropriation." The chapter gives a fairly value-neutral assessment of how slang develops in minority subcultures and enters mainstream culture, but Alexic declares this harmful to minorities. Paradoxically, he goes on to complain that mainstream society is not accepting enough of slang and minority dialects. Despite his political leanings, Alexic documents well how both the censorship and the subcultures trying to escape it cut across political lines. Incels and body positivity advocates both play the same game. So do LGBT activists and homophobes. Users replace white with YT and a slur for black people with ninja. Alexic notes the paradox in trying to censor sensitive words, which may be used as either self-descriptors or slurs, and the ways trolls exploit the inflexible nature of content moderation. Rather than making hateful content that'll get immediately removed, he writes, bigots will often opt to mass report videos of creators they dislike. Some users contend with competing censorship regimes. Much has been said about the ways that TikTok, founded by a Chinese company, has to answer to the Chinese authorities. A problem that ironically became a justification for banning TikTok in America. Alexic addresses cases of TikTok censoring topics that are sensitive in China, such as the Hong Kong protests and the repression of Uyghurs. He also mentions censorship in the other direction. Instagram, for example, once shadow banned the journalist Azmat Khan, whose New York Times coverage of U.S. military cover-ups won her a Pulitzer Prize. Meta, the parent company, claims it was an accident. These problems, though many of them have political causes, don't have a clear political solution. Often, political pressure just causes censorship to swing in the other direction. Republicans who once railed against government intervention in social media moderation now pressure companies to help them root out the cancer of political radicalism. Democrats now waving the flag of free speech may soon return to demanding that dangerous misinformation be stomped out. While public pressure may cause a few figures to be unbanned, risk-averse companies generally find it easier to censor everything than to allow everything. But the overall message of AlgoSpeak should be reassuring from a libertarian perspective. Just let things be, the book seems to say. If people want to talk about something, they will find a way. Social media only accelerates the game of whack-a-mole.
And the people of Chicago are walking around with MAGA hats. You have women, beautiful black women, walking around with MAGA hats. Please let the president in, and we don't care how he does it. They're not interested in National Guard or Army, Navy, bring them in. Marines, bring in the Marines. They just want the crime to stop. And more so because of the success that we had in D.C. I think if we didn't have that success, nobody would even believe it.
The only president who has the guts to call them big, beautiful, black women wearing MAGA hats. Good golly, it's great to be an American. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm Austin Peterson. It's a beautiful day in Jefferson City, Missouri. 58 degrees and sunny. I just can't wait to spend the day with my family today. Mother-in-law's in town. She's getting herself all beautiful today. We're having a blast. Be a part of our Freedom Family Friday show where we get to hang out with everybody in the Peterson family live and on set. Make sure that you come back tomorrow. It's a special day where my smoking hot, redheaded libertarian wife, Stephanie, joins me right here on the Wake Up America show. Special guests, fun, jokes, prizes, news, and entertainment. Absolutely everything that you need to start your day the American way. Right here, it's the Wake Up America show. All right. So the fallout from this Politico email scandal just keeps... The scandal just keeps spreading out from these leaks. It's kind of like a brush fire. So the scandal began with these racist and anti-Semitic jokes in GOP staffer chats, and it's now engulfed the Republican Party from Washington, D.C. to the grassroots. Here in Missouri, our own chairman, Peter Kinder, issued a statement condemning the content, which for most normal people sounds like common sense. Normal people. But online, we're not normal. You'd think that he declared war on America. The base erupted, accusing party leaders of bending the knee to media outrage. Former state reps attacking current state reps, got at each other's throat. And into that hurricane walked my friend, writer, commentator, frequent guest on the Wake Up America show, Camellia Peterson. She had the audacity to say, Kinder is right. Cue the digital firing squad. Boom, boom. She got ratioed, roasted, and called every name in the conservative dictionary when she said decency wasn't optional. Good morning, Camellia.
Good morning. You know, I had to change my relationship status on Facebook yesterday. I am now in a relationship with Ratio. And it's been so great.
Ratioed. You got roasted. Boom, roasted.
The best. So much attention.
It's like me, but every day. How I have to deal with. Camellia, before we kind of get into this, right, let's start simple. What made you decide to speak up publicly in support of Kinder's statement when you knew it would cost you politically?
Yeah, I mean, mostly because, I don't know, I guess this is sort of my MO, right, is that I hold my own side to a higher standard. I actually think that is more important than constantly hitting the left. And there are lots of people out there hitting the left justifiably all the time. There are not enough people who are holding our own side accountable and demanding a higher standard. But so, yeah, I mean, like, and I know Peter Kinder and I respect him. And so I think it's something that needed to be said, and because it's not reflective of the vast majority of young Republicans in Missouri. And I think there's a time to speak out publicly in support of those things and not sit silently on the sidelines. So, you know, I did. I didn't think it was particularly controversial what I said.
You didn't think it was particularly controversial? Even with everything that you know about the directions that the Republican Party is trending in right now, you didn't think it would be controversial. If you didn't, Camellia.
Well, I say this, like, what I said was not like, I didn't use like dramatic rhetoric or anything like that. Like, I wasn't like, I felt like what I said was pretty calm.
But you stood up for the establishment.
And part of the reason I did that is because when I read that article and saw some of the names in it, initially, like, I recognized some of those names. And so you said the article or whatever it was out of the Kansas City area publication or news station. And the thing is that there has been a history with the YRs in this area, you know, over the last several years with some differing factions with the Kansas City Republicans, because there are kind of two different groups there, you know, kind of on the border. And so some of those names in that Kansas, you know, chapter were familiar, and I'd had run-ins with, you know, 2 or 3 years ago, and they were just in this line of this new authoritarian right that wants to assert not only their authority, moral or otherwise, on everybody, but they actually also tended to really want to assert their Catholic religion on everybody too. And they had no problems with saying that, yes, we need to be a theocracy. So when, you know, everybody say, oh, these are just jokes and everything, the problem is that a lot of us who've been watching this for a long time know that it's not just jokes, because you and I, like, we both have a dark sense of humor. We say inappropriate things all the time. We don't necessarily, like, you say more of them publicly than I do, but
well, for that, people pay me $17.76 a month so I don't get canceled.
That's right.
It's true. I mean, you know, well, it's true, but right. It's a dangerous thing, because the difference, of course, here is that nobody lives or dies on the words of my voice. But when you talk about people who have actual political power, then decisions that are made impacts people's lives. If you have someone say that you don't believe in religious liberty and their job is literally to regulate a district or to work for a representative, then everybody has a right to have a say in who their representatives are. And if you're a member of a political party, you have a right to complain about those representatives and the way that they behave. So, so you didn't exactly endorse a purge. Right. You just said that we should draw a moral line, and that's supposed to be the foundation of our side. Right. Personal responsibility. But judging by your mentions, it's actually become controversial to say that racism and anti-Semitism are bad. Yeah, apparently so. I mean, there and it's constant whataboutism, right? Well, what's the Democrats name? Are doing it. Jay Jones. Yeah, the Democrats are doing it. And have you said anything about Jay Jones or whatever his name is? And it's just constant. There's no and this has kind of become the norm. And people are using Charlie Kirk in this. And do you really think Charlie Kirk would have been a fan of this? Like, no, that's hard to believe. Like, he wasn't. He wasn't. That's the thing is Charlie Kirk is assassinated and immediately some of his quote unquote friends begin assassinating his memory because what's amazing too is that some of these people who claim to have some kind of moral authority, a lot of these people were against Charlie Kirk. They thought that he was a goody two shoes. They hated that he was pro-Israel and a Zionist. But it is controversial to say racism and anti-Semitism is bad, but I kind of blame the left. Because the left they called everybody Nazis and they called everybody racist for so long that now everybody just raises their hands like, okay, I'm a Nazi, I guess I'm a Nazi, right? Somebody called me a fascist the other day because I voted for Donald Trump, and I was like, I guess if I'm a fascist, then you're a dumbass, bud. So It's like they called Donald Trump Hitler, but he just arranged peace. He just had the worst Hitler ever. Just arranged peace between Israel and Gaza. Hitler, he loved peace in the Middle East. Right. Yeah, of course. Yes. Do you think this backlash that you faced, Camellia, and you got a big backlash, do you think that it shows something deeper right now that parts of the right are so allergic to virtue signaling then that they've started rejecting virtue itself? Right. No, I do think so. And here's the thing. You and I both have good friends who fall into this category of people who are very upset about this. And and this is why I think that multiple things can be true. Do I think that it's good for people to leak private chats and those sort of things? Like, of course not. But I think what this did is it revealed something that we've already known is a deeper and growing problem on the right, and particularly in young conservative men. Like, you and I have talked about this way before this happened this week. And so, I think that there are a lot of factors that we can point to, because here's the thing. I think that their mindset and their attitudes and the beliefs they are taking a stand on are wrong. But I also can understand, the factors that contribute to how they got there. I mean, we've been talking about this culturally for years now, in the backlash that we've seen in the red pill manosphere movement to, what extreme feminism has done at the expense of men, and boys have been, marginalized and emasculated, and they, very often are raised in single mother households. They don't have good, solid father figures. There's so many things, and I think that too, I think this is also, kind of the current generation's way of rebelling and pushing back. And when it comes to foreign policy, their entire lives they've heard about Israel, and it has the perception, I think, to them has been that we have, we've acquiesced to Israel at every turn, and that, there's been a reverence there that I think is tied to, religious factors. And I just think that, there's just no nuance, and there's no middle ground there, and they swing all the way to the other side. There's some truth to that, right? So, for example, in this conflict between Israel and Hamas, I've been one of Israel's strongest defenders from the right and the conservatives, because I believe this is about civilization versus barbarism. And yet there are groups online that are Jewish groups like StopAntisemitism.org, for example, who for a year were calling me an anti-Semite years ago, right? Attacking me, saying that I hated Jews, all of this, spreading all these lies and malicious slander about me, right? Because I had a difference of opinion with left-wing Jews on something, they just automatically equated to anti-Semitism. And people like me, and I think a lot of people are absolutely sick and tired of that. The ADL and their oppressive, anti-free speech, censorious ways. You can call that out, just like Patrick Casey said on our show yesterday. I'm going to replay that after this interview today. But I think people are they're tired of that. But there's a difference between making a joke, I like Hitler, ironically, and making it unironically. And then even if you're making it unironically, if you're a person who is a private citizen, it's one thing, and it's a completely different burrito when you work for the government, is it not?
No, I think so. I mean, we may not, we do talk about free speech all the time, right? And I think that, we certainly have a great deal of respect for people's freedom to speak and say unpopular things. But there are also, on the other hand, very real life consequences.
Moral limits.
With
if I said all Catholics should go to the gas chamber, I think that some people might rightly be outraged. If I said it unironically, all Catholics to the gas chamber, that would probably be the kind of thing that, are you joking? But even if you're joking, I'm probably not going to want to allow you to work for me anymore if you said something that awful, right? Moral lines. There's a moral line somewhere.
Where have we, so we used to talk about this, is that there was no more public shaming. And I remember years ago where we talked about we need to bring back public shaming. Well, guess what? This is public shaming. I mean, we publicly shame bad ideas and bad behavior, and we shouldn't not do that because it's our own side. This no enemies to the right business, no, if you think that this is how we lose and this is the direction that we have to go, then you know what? I'm okay with losing because I'm not going to accept, degeneracy in idea and thought and racism and bigotry and homophobia on my own side.
I don't think it has to be that way. I don't think that it has to be that kind of dichotomy, Camellia, and I don't think you should give that to these people. I don't think that you should say I'm okay with losing. I think that the right row to hoe is to say that we're not going to lose an election because I refuse to call out a Jew-hating anti-Semite national socialist. We can win and still nobody's going to go to the ballot booth and say, man, I was going to vote for him, but he called out that Nazi guy,
Yes, no, I agree.
So don't surrender that. Don't surrender that to them because you're playing by their game.
That's fair.
You're playing by their game. We can still win. And I get the instinct to protect your own, which is what this is tribalism. I really do. But there's a difference between mercy on people and then moral mush. Mercy says we forgive, but you take responsibility.
That's
Mush says we forgive and we pretend it never happens. One heals and the other festers, right? And we've talked about this before, the danger of turning every disagreement into a purity test. I mean, how do conservatives hold each other accountable without feeding into cancel culture?
So, I think that we have to there's a line between understanding why, why people are inclined to do certain things or believe things and then justifying it. And so, as I was talking to different people yesterday, I mean, the one thing, the question in my mind is that, there are a lot of good young men who have fallen down these rabbit holes online, and the social media algorithm has just rewarded and validated this anger and outrage on there. And so they find camaraderie and value in that. And so it is they
need outlets. Men need outlets.
That's right.
Men need outlets. Just like Amy J.E. said in the chat, she says, you need private male spaces. Yes, we do. Because I'll have all my guy friends all in a room together, and we're all saying the most vile things that you could ever imagine to each other, about each other, their moms, ethnic heritage, the worst you could ever imagine. Hitler jokes is, it's normal. A good Hitler joke always gets the guys laughing. But the minute a woman walks into the room, Camellia, the attitude changes. All right. I'm not saying there aren't some based and red-pilled women, and you and, certainly some of the people in my orbit, can take a joke. But the minute you'll never ever see a dynamic where it's all dudes and one guy speaks up to the other guys and is like, guys, that's offensive. You guys, we shouldn't be talking like this. That doesn't happen.
That's true. And here's the thing, my question is like, how do we make this kind of behavior unacceptable, but yet still allow for grace, for growth and change? Because a lot of this is something that comes with maturity, but I don't want to deny the very real problems that have been here. And I can't tell you how many times in my mentions, like I muted like the main post like early on, right? But, they kept finding all my other posts, and I can't tell how many times I saw the word longhouse and, various other expletives. And here's the thing.
And that's kind of true.
So, I mean, yes and no. Like here's where my red pill people are going to get mad at me. They're already mad at me. Let's be real. That, even Ryan Stone, who I actually like, has been dragging me on Twitter, and that's okay. I'll forgive him. But and I'll still recommend him to young men. But here's the thing is that, there's, you can take something that has very valid roots and reasons, and you can turn it into victimhood. And that's a lot of what has happened on the right and all of the longhouse rhetoric. There's truth in that. And there are lessons that young men need to take away from the masculinity movement, red pill movement, about, how they approach life and how they are men and focusing on themselves and, all of those kind of things. But there's been a difference in that, and a lot of most of the people who are responding to me, they've taken legitimate issues and they've turned it into victimhood. Because at some point you have to say, this really sucks, but I'm not going to be a victim in this, and I'm going to go out and live my life. Because I think one of the things we haven't talked about here is that, we have all of these young men on the Young Republicans who are talking about, how terrible this is and a whole. Well, let me ask you about all of the young Republicans who are also young men who are not in that camp. They are people who are out there who are very conservative, liberty loving, and they are living their lives. They are getting married, having children. And so, is there something wrong with them because they are not playing the victim in this sort of thing? So yeah, anyway, you mentioned the fight that's been going on in Missouri and Chris Lonsdale. And I'm just here to say Chris Lonsdale should be a lesson that all young men should take to heart.
Wait. Now, if you're going to talk shit, you got to give us a little bit.
Sure am.
Well, then you got to give us a little backstory on who Chris Lonsdale is and why you're denigrating him.
Yes. And I was like, I'm all for reach across the aisle. Let's find common ground or whatever. But at some point you have to stop trying to persuade the unpersuadable. Okay. So Chris Lonsdale was a young representative here a couple of years ago in Missouri. And he, is in the YRs. He was, when he first ran for election in a suburb of Kansas City, he was supported by Young Americans for Liberty. He had a lot of support. He promised to, he ran on school choice, all of these things, all these very conservative things. He got into the legislature and promptly flip-flopped on his school choice position, voted against it, and then when people called him out on it, he got mad. And he kind of liked to portray himself as like a mini Trump. He would do a lot of the shit posting online and whatever. And the thing is that, there were a lot of people who tried to reach out to him and, coach him on things, because the reality is when you're in the legislature, you have to kind of know the game and you have to work with people. You can't just, dog on everybody all the time. So the bottom line is he decided to pick fights with the people who would have been on his side, and he got, dragged for it. And so I was one of those people that he decided to pick fights with. He gave me one of my favorite labels. I am a paid political shill. I'm grateful for that. So, he's coming over here and trying to, say things about, that the Missouri YRs are just losing losers and all this kind of stuff. But here's the thing, who's the loser here? Because Lonsdale lost his last reelection to a Democrat. And the reason that he lost was because he went in and he betrayed all of his conservative principles. And so when it came time for reelection, nobody supported him. None of his colleagues supported him. None of the organizations that fight for good policy supported him. And so he was out there on his own and he lost.
And he gave the seat up to a Democrat. Now, Camellia,
right.
would you say something like that to his face?
Absolutely. 100%.
Okay. Well, then here's what I'm going to do, because I don't think it's fair necessarily that, I know Lonsdale, he was always nice to me, but I believe you and your stories, but I think it's fair and probably good, good conversation anyway. So I'm going to invite him on, and I'm going to offer, here's what I'll offer him. And you tell me if you agree. I'm going to offer him an interview by himself if he wants to respond to these accusations, to hear his side of the story. And he can either come on by himself, or would you be open to him coming on next Tuesday and joining us here together and you guys hashing this out on the air?
I mean, I have no qualms about that.
You got no problem with that?
No.
Okay. I will offer that to him. Just out of courtesy. I even show a bit of courtesy for my political opponents. Gavin Wax, I cannot stand Gavin Wax. He's been named in this leak as the leaker. And here's the thing. I hope he is the leaker because I love to see this guy get taken down a notch, which it's been a long time coming. One of the primary antagonists of my 2018 Senate campaign. But I don't know that he did that, right? I don't know that he did that. So it's kind of like the Sir Thomas More Man for All Seasons sketch, where it's like, would you cut down the law to go after even the devil? And they said, well, yes, I would go after him, Rober. I would go after the devil, cut down the law to get the devil himself. And he's like, Sir Thomas More said that he wouldn't, because he said that he would give the devil, even the devil, the benefit of the law, because what would happen when you turned around and you stood and the devil staring at you, all the laws laid flat? What would protect you then? So yes, I would give the devil the benefit of the law for my own sake. So I'm going to give the devil their due and invite Chris Lonsdale, the devil, and he'll either deny, reject, he'll call me a weenie as well, or I'll invite him on the show he can either have his own segment to respond to these allegations, accusations of his behavior, or he'll come on Tuesday if he can, and you guys can hash it out here. What do you say?
Sure.
It's going to be some good content.
So something for you to think about. I know we're close on time, but something to think about. A friend of mine that I've been talking to about this, and this is not the first time that he said this. He said this to me before this incident occurred, but, kind of looking at the cultural, political landscape that we're in right now. One of the things that he's talked about is when I think it was Mark Twain that talked about history rhyming. And so with the idea of history rhyming, he was like, we are back in the 60s. It looks different, but that's kind of the where we're at. And so that's interesting to me. And I think it'll be interesting to see where we are in the next few years, because I don't think, while I don't think this is every young person, I also don't think it's an insignificant number either. And so, it does feel like we've got these two very, extreme fringes on both sides. And increasingly, you're getting this middle that is tired of all of it. We're fatigued.
That is the word of the year, fatigue.
Right.
That's funny. All right, Camellia. Dad Bod Baboon says, oof, maybe not a good idea. If he disrespects my sweet Camellia, I might have to drive up north to knock out some teeth. That's very funny, Dad Bod.
Well, thanks. Trust me, Mr. Lonsdale has been getting dragged, and honestly, the people that he's getting dragged by in the state are his former colleagues in the legislature, and those colleagues were the most libertarian conservative ones among us.
Yeah, well, I'm surprised, Chris Lonsdale. I would think that on paper, this guy sounds like he would hate my guts, but he's always been pretty cordial to me. Maybe I just haven't.
Yeah. Oh no.
Maybe I just haven't crossed his wires for whatever reason. But I'm just gonna.
Well.
I'm sure maybe I will at some point, so we'll see. But I'm going to invite him, and good faith, I'm going to invite him, because if somebody was bashing the hell out of me and then said, "Would you like to come on and respond?" I'd be like, "Hell yeah!" I thrive on this. But I'm going to give him that opportunity. You've agreed to it, and we'll see what he says. He can either come on by himself, or he can come on and debate you, which would be great. Or maybe he won't be able to come on at all, and this just fizzles and falls apart. But it's a good discussion. It's an important discussion. And I could see both sides. So, Camellia, thanks for being a good sport. And you know what? I think it's wise to draw clear moral lines. So I agree with you on that. But we also we do have problems in the Republican Party with what I think is sort of a rampant. I would call this. Camellia, if you really want to drive those people nuts, just say that they're third worlders in ideas and philosophy. That's, if you really want to drive them crazy. The next time that a fat brown groiper calls you a Jew, ask him which one of his ancestors fought in the Civil War, and make sure you're recording, because you'll watch his face. My parents are from Abbottabad, and I have not ever had sex. Nick Fuentes is my king. All right, Camellia, anything else you want to share with our audience before we let you go?
No, I just, there's nothing new in this. And I think that we just have to find a way forward. And I just want all of the young guys who are, I work with a lot of them, and they're not, I know some of them are in this camp, a lot of them are not. But I still like them. I think that you have some bad ideas, but I think that we can work through that.
All right, there it is. I'm sending the text message now to Chris Lonsdale to see if he wants to appear on the show. So put a bookmark in this, and we'll see you again next Tuesday, maybe here with Chris. It should be good. Maybe some sparks fly. Have a lot of fun.
Have a great day,
I like
everyone.
when people tell me to my face I'm a dick. All right, see you later, Camellia. Bye.
But Gottfried is very critical of U.S.-Israel policy, but he thinks Israel has a right to exist, just about any other country. And that's basically where I'm coming from. I'm not going to agree with every, demand or desire that whatever Israeli administration that happens to be in power at a particular point in time has or wants. But that also doesn't mean that any disagreements there mean that I think Israel needs to lose, otherwise America can't win. It just doesn't work out that way. And in fact, I think it's actually the opposite. I think these people that don't want to support Trump, despite all of the good things that he's doing, some of these people wanted Trump to lose very explicitly in the 2024 election. I think these people actually care more about Israel losing than they care about America winning. I'm fine with, America winning and Israel winning. Because I care about America winning, and that's by far the biggest concern that I have. But for some people, they would rather see Israel lose. And, Trump's doing all this great work on DEI, on immigration, on pushing, mass firing government workers. So I guess some of these people just don't want any of that to happen just because he happens to be pro-Israel as well. It's very ridiculous. And it deserves to be called out.
Yeah, that's Patrick Casey, who was on my show yesterday. We're going to replay that interview that we had with Patrick Casey. You just saw the clip from. Fantastic conversation. It's about 20 minutes long, but I just want to make sure to remind you guys, we have unlocked phase 1 of the bonus content, and phase 2 is automatically unlocked today. Everybody's going to get to see the game. It's the Great Grift Off, Liberty Loot Live. Great Grift Off, Liberty Loot Live is a daily chance now to win big. We're going to give away real prizes from the Grift Shop today. And you can play the game at home on your mobile device in order to win the prize. So how do you enter to win? Well, if you've given a Rumble rant, then you're already entered to win, but you need your secret code. In order to get your secret code, you got to text that phone line that you see at the bottom of the screen. 573-319-1586 is the text line. 573-319-1586. If you guys have already given a Rumble rant, then you're already registered. We just need to give you the code. So send us a text at 573-319-1586. We're going to play Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? And you will get a code and a website and a code that you will enter, and you will be able to play on your mobile device. It'll last 5 minutes. It'll be fast. Everybody who plays the game today is going to be a winner, is going to walk away with something from the shop. Do purchases on the website, the Grift Shop, do they also count for prize entries? They do. So if you made a purchase from the shop this morning during the show, or if you made a Rumble Rant donation to the show, you are eligible to get your code, and everybody who plays is going to be a winner. Brad will drop the link in the chat so you can read all the details. Playing is super easy. You're going to go to a simple website, and then you're just going to enter in the code. And if you guys need more details, just let us know. So I'm going to hang out in the chat and talk you guys through it. We're going to play Patrick Casey's interview. It was a fantastic conversation. When we get back, we're going to play Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader with all the people who have given Rumble Rant donations. So if you want in, you can get in for $1, maybe even win a really nice prize. Just for $1 Rumble Rant donation, we'll give you all the details in the next 20 minutes. I'll see you in the Rumble chat. We'll be right back. It's Patrick Casey and me, AP, on the For Liberty Show. On the Wake Up America Show on the For Liberty Network. Yes, that. Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show, and we're on the For Liberty Network. Thanks so much for joining us live today. If you haven't already clicked the like button, there are hundreds of people. How many people can we get to click the like button? Let's do it. Click the like button. And if today's your first time watching the Wake Up America show and you've been enjoying this content, click the follow button as well. We'd love to have you be a regular guest. And this show is Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. The Wake Up America show needs to be a part of your regular scheduled watching in the mornings. It's a great show. Let's talk to my next guest. His name is Patrick Casey. He's been defending Trump's handling of the recent Gaza conflict as measured, strategic, and America first. But that's in contrast to what he calls a hysterical, blackpilled narrative that's circulating on the right. He's joining us live for the very first time today. Very excited to talk to this gentleman, Patrick Casey. Good morning, Patrick, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Mr. Peterson. It's good to be here. Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, it's really refreshing to hear your takes. It's sort of, countervailing the pressure on the right to adopt more and more extreme rhetoric that at many times seems counter to what the Trump administration is trying to accomplish, that the online right, some of who claim to be the biggest supporters of Donald Trump, seem to be working very hard to undermine his messaging. What gives?
Sure. So I would definitely differentiate between people who are supportive of Trump but disagree with certain policies or rhetoric coming from the Trump administration. I'm not saying I would always agree with those people, but that's definitely a different. It's a little more reasonable. But you do have a lot of people who are anti-Trump and have been basically since the 2024 election on the grounds that Trump is a Zionist, right? As if somehow that were anything different than what Trump has always been. He's been pro-Israel, but anti-war in the sense of anti-U.S. intervention, boots on the ground, global war on terror, and so on and so forth. So what you've had the rise of this sort of anti-Zionist right, one might say, and they've been very loud on social media. And regardless of how people feel about Israel, these people have been trying to turn other people against Trump on the grounds that he's going to get us into World War III. They're telling us that deportations just are not happening. All those videos, I guess, we've been seeing, maybe they're AI or something. And they've also been saying that, Trump is complicit in some kind of genocide in Gaza. Well, Donald Trump just forced Israel to accept a far earlier peace deal than Israel wanted. If you look at a lot of pro-Israel people in the American right and you look at the Israeli right, I think they can sort of accept that the war has come to an end. It's not the end of the world. They're getting the hostages back, and
I see a lot of them cheering. I see a lot are celebrating.
Yeah, there's a lot of celebrating. I think if the Israeli right, got its way like 100%, I think they would have kept going for a little longer. And so the point that I'm trying to make here is this narrative that Donald Trump is just some hapless slave to Benjamin Netanyahu is not only factually incorrect, but it's a really insidious narrative to be promoting about, as far as I'm concerned, the best president we've had in a very long time. And so that's why I push back against that stuff. I'm not really coming at it from a hardcore pro-Israel angle. But part of, my position is that people don't need to feel super strongly on Israel one way or the other.
Well, you call yourself a moderate paleoconservative, but from what I understand of the paleoconservatives, my experience with paleoconservatives, of which I know many and have been in, part of this movement for a very, very long time, Patrick, is that it is very clearly anti-Israel, and some of them, they don't like the ethnicity of the people who live in Israel either. So, there is that element to it.
Sure. So the paleocons, obviously, you could find across anyone who ever identified as them, especially the bigger paleocons like Joe Sobran, Paul Gottfried, Pat Buchanan. You certainly find a spectrum of views on the state of Israel,
on the Jewish question.
People. Yeah, definitely. So some definitely veer off. I'm not going to name names. Some definitely veer off more into territory that could be non-hysterically considered anti-Semitic.
Might appear in a Republican group chat even, perhaps.
Right. Yeah. But I would say I'm really into Paul Gottfried. He's kind of an intellectual mentor of mine. He's published me many times in Chronicles magazine. He has a very interesting position. So he's pro-Israel existing, which I think is kind of going with the grain. If your politics depend on Israel no longer existing, that's kind of a radical thing, and it's not necessary at all as far as I'm concerned. But Gottfried is very critical of U.S.-Israel policy, but he thinks Israel has a right to exist, just about any other country. And that's basically where I'm coming from. I'm not going to agree with every demand or desire that whatever Israeli administration that happens to be in power at a particular point in time has or wants. But that also doesn't mean that any disagreements there mean that I think Israel needs to lose, otherwise America can't win. It just doesn't work out that way. And in fact, I think it's actually the opposite. I think these people that don't want to support Trump, despite all of the good things that he's doing, some of these people wanted Trump to lose very explicitly in the 2024 election. I think these people actually care more about Israel losing than they care about America winning. I'm fine with, America winning and Israel winning because I care about America winning. And that's like by far the biggest concern that I have. But for some people, they would rather see Israel lose. And, Trump's doing all this great work on DEI, on immigration, on pushing, mass firing government workers. So I guess some of these people just don't want any of that to happen just because he happens to be pro-Israel as well. It's very ridiculous. And it deserves to be called out. Is
there an Israel derangement syndrome, Patrick? Because I think that there is. It's kind of like how people are with Trump. They're either insane for Trump or insane against Trump, and there's kind of nothing in between. I feel that way with Israel. It's like I'm kind of looking forward to not talking about Israel and Gaza and Palestine for a while. Yeah. I know that some people are really disappointed that that's going to go away, but I'm not. I'd like to talk about what's happening here in the United States. Right. I kind of guess I sort of identify with your boss or your publisher there to some extent. You can be critical of Israel and say that we shouldn't be giving them our foreign aid and they can take care of themselves, and I can agree with that. But that doesn't mean that, I'm going to get on board with Salafist or Ba'athist, or I'm not going to join. There's a weird sort of horseshoe effect kind of happening right now. Patrick, I mean, haven't you been accused of taking the $7,000 Israeli bucks because of some of the things that you've been saying? Are you a puppet of Netanyahu, Patrick?
Yeah, it's funny because I don't get into the weeds with there are a lot of things that people say about Israel. Oh, the IDF, killed all of these people. And I follow pro-Israel accounts, and they spend a lot of time saying, no, this is a made up massacre. It didn't happen. I'm not I'm not involved in that level. I'm basically telling people that Donald Trump is the best president we've had in, again, living memory. I don't know how far you have to go back very far to find another president who's done as much for our country as Trump has. And my whole thing is that people are lying about the realities of the Middle East in order to convince you that you shouldn't support Trump. If Trump were actually about to get us involved in World War III, okay, then I would have to reconsider my support for him because I don't want to be involved in World War III, right? Were he actually a neocon warmonger who was just going to literally allow Israel to carry out an endless, infinite war in the Middle East, then I would have to maybe reconsider my support for Trump.
That's kind of the point. But that's kind of the point, because they're accusing Trump of being the neocon warmonger because of, for example, of the strike on Israel, or excuse me, because of the strike on Iran, and that strike was supposed to be the World War III, and it was the sign that he was controlled by Netanyahu, and it was the sign that he was going to get us further embroiled and entangled into Middle East conflicts. So the strike on Iran, Dave Smith called for him to be impeached over that. It seemed, I mean, exactly. I'm laughing too.
Ridiculous.
It really seems to show a lack of kind of long-term thinking amongst some people.
Yeah. So you have, there definitely, I didn't really answer your question earlier, but there is an Israel derangement syndrome and more broadly a Jew derangement syndrome. Look, again, I've got disagreements with, Jewish liberal organizations. If I see a conservative Jewish organization that's saying something I disagree with, I'm gonna be critical. But the people that just that's all they want to talk about, and there's a tendency I've noticed among these people that they call themselves noticers. Their whole thing is pointing out someone's Jewish, early life checking them, and so to speak. But these people call me Jewish as well. So that makes me actually believe that, by becoming an epic Jew noticer, people lose the ability to actually notice who is and isn't Jewish. There were viral tweets accusing J.D. Vance of being Jewish. I mean, that guy's about as goy as it gets, right? It's absurd that these are the arguments that we have to deal with here. But Trump isn't a neocon. I don't think most of these people really know what the term neocon means. If you look back at the neocons, I mean, Bill Kristol and a lot of these people they switched parties, right? Neoconservatism, I mean, especially the post Cold War era of neoconservatism, it was about a global liberal empire. The idea that it was only about Israel just isn't the case. And even though Trump is super pro-Israel, okay, that didn't work for Bill Kristol. So there's actually a lot more to being a neoconservative. But most of the people throwing this term around don't actually care what it means. It's just a code for, Jew or pro-Israel person. You can just say Jew or Zionist to get your point across. Doesn't mean I'm going to agree with that point. But people try using words they don't understand. And again, that just makes the discourse dumber.
Yeah, you were sort of implying the other day, though, that there might be, and maybe I'm incorrect, please don't let me put words in your mouth, but you seem to be implying that there were perhaps some foreign actors, and please God, I hope that Twitter actually gives us the nation of origin from tweets, because I think the Groyper movement probably falls apart because of that. Yeah. But I think that, but I'd like to know, I think we deserve to know, where people are coming from. But don't you think that a lot of this may have been from, perhaps Israel's enemies trying to make the based white Christian nationalists in the United States hate Israel and to stoke that discord? Because, do you believe there's any grain of truth perhaps to like Qatar spending money in the United States on American influencers, or maybe mounting these kinds of bot campaigns to support, Groyper or anti-Jew narratives in the United States? Do you think there's maybe a grain of truth to that, or just fake and gay?
No, it's probably true. But just like the Israel critical people who accuse anyone who, it's not even, again, I'm not even saying like radically pro-Israel things. It's, I'm saying like, yeah, you can support Trump. No, he's not going to get us involved in World War III, over Gaza or something. And they're saying, oh, you got paid $7,000 for that post. I mean, yeah, if only. But, getting paid to support the president, that doesn't work that way. But, just as there probably are people getting paid money to say pro-Israel things, they're probably like, I would imagine like the big pro-Israel accounts with like AI avatars or something.
What a plague.
So it's there's probably like a little truth to that, but it's not like everyone's getting paid $7,000 anytime they say something positive about Israel. It's probably the same on the other side of things. But I do know for a fact that Qatar is paying for social media stuff. I don't want to go into detail, but there are people who have received money from them and, spoken, drank a little too much and admitted to it.
Yeah.
There are people that have been.
Do you think that Tucker's associations with those types are sus or no?
Which associations?
Well, like for example, the gentleman from Qatar who made the first initial investment in Tucker's network, TCN. There have been a lot of investments, cryptocurrency investments that have been made with some of these people, business deals. How do you feel about bringing Qatar, the airbase facility, into the United States as part of this deal?
I guess their pilots are going to be able to train on some of our planes at an airbase.
It's kind of a give for peace, I guess.
Yeah, so I'm not as anti-Qatar as again, like the really diehard pro-Israel people. And I have plenty of friends in that category. So stuff like that I'm not as concerned by. There's definitely weird stuff going on with. Qatar is the biggest foreign funder of our universities. If you've taken a look at what our universities look like these days, that should be cause for concern. So there's definitely concern about what they're up to and funding influencer operations. But again, I do think that some people tend to over-exaggerate the extent to which stuff is a problem.
Yeah, it's the $7,000 you get paid to say, by Qatar to make the $7,000 allegations against you. Who knows?
Right,
Maybe
right.
It is a big conspiracy.
It's actually I saw. I'm not going to name names, but I saw someone who was doing the $7,000 meme, and that was someone that through the grapevine, from a trusted source, I heard had admitted to having taken money from Qatar. So the thing is, there's even if you put that to the side, you have a lot of influencers who are intentionally catering to a third world audience, or you could just say a global audience. But the third world, there are a lot of people there. So it's like, if you look at, someone was telling me that Candace Owens' audience demographic or analytics show that she's huge in countries like you would never expect, majority Muslim countries, Asian countries, and whatever else.
Yes.
So we actually are in, I think, an unprecedented era where American political discourse is being shaped by people with large platforms who are catering to third world audiences. So they're saying things that play well with the global South, but they're not admitting that that's what they're doing, and they're polluting American political discourse by catering to the third world. And I think that's something that really needs to be drawn attention to. Every day that goes by, hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of people in the third world get internet access. And that's just the future of the internet, I think, is going to be one. I don't care if someone replies to me and they say, you're stupid, you Zionist or whatever, and they get 10,000 likes, but, half of those or most of those are from people in the third world. Those are negligible as far as I'm concerned. That doesn't reflect how Americans feel. That doesn't reflect how, white American Christians under 40 feel. So those people, it's not like their lives don't matter, but it's like their opinions kind of don't matter as far as I'm concerned for American politics. But that's just part of the wonderful new media environment we find ourselves in on the internet and so forth. But it's something that people need to keep in mind.
Patrick, I mean, you've had such fantastic analysis in the last several weeks, especially. I had to get you on the show. We've been trying to get you on the show. We're really busy guys, and I'm just really grateful that you're being so generous with us this morning. I definitely want to give you a chance to make any plugs that you want to make, but I wish I could pick your brain for another hour or 2 hours, so I hope you will come back again soon.
Sure.
Patrick, where are we at right now? It feels like we're actually at a high. Talk about the Blackpillers. This Politico controversy comes out with all these news stories. There's still a lot of information that's a lot of like poofling that's happening, and we don't exactly know what's going on with this story. But I mean, do you think it's a distraction one, or in the context of all of the Jew stuff that's already happening right now, is it more, toxicity? What do you sort of like see of where we're at? It feels like Trump is sort of soaring above it all and like doing amazing, but like the party's just like blackpilled and doom scrolling and, caught in these debates and discussions that they've got their eye off the ball, even if Trump does. What do you think about where we're at?
I think we're in a pretty good spot. I think the people that are like anti-Trump blackpilling online, I don't think that represents a sizable at all portion of the electorate of the Republican base. So I'm not terribly concerned about that. It is important to push back against bad ideas and bad people, but I think Trump is doing very well. I'm thinking about 2028. I'm thinking about the potential for Vance to take the to take the torch and kind of keep the Trump movement going as much as anyone who isn't Trump is capable of doing. And I don't want to say I'm worried, but I'm trying to think what are the conditions under which Vance couldn't get the primary or couldn't get the nomination, couldn't win. I do see some people attacking Vance in the pro-Israel crowd for being too friendly with Tucker and saying, well, he's going to need to disavow Tucker if I'm supporting him in 2028. So, and also some of the anti-Israel people, like the Groypers, are very anti-Vance. So I'm kind of, I think Vance is great. So I'm conceiving of a scenario in which in 2028, you have people who are attacking Vance from both sides. You're not pro-Israel enough. You're too pro-Israel, whatever. And that's just kind of, again, tedious for someone who has pretty moderate views on Israel. The idea that someone that the next president, like if you've got a guy who's solid all across the board on domestic issues, I would also say on foreign policy, the idea that he should be disqualified from that because he's either too for or too against a foreign country, to me is just kind of ridiculous. It's not everyone in the pro-Israel crowd who feels this way, just to be very clear. But I don't know. Anything can happen before 2028. The public could decide that they've had enough of these deportations. That's something I'm a little concerned about. When you had people streaming across the border, the mass deportations were very popular. Now that people are seeing what mass deportations look like, there's polling data that suggests, a lot of fickle Americans no longer are as supportive. So it's just one of the many joys of democracy. But I think we have a good successor in Vance, and I'm hoping that he's able to win in 2028, and I'm hoping the Democrats don't get back in power because that wouldn't be very pretty.
All right, now you're blackpilling. Okay, so let's just, Patrick, I turned on notifications onto your X account. In the last few weeks when everybody's hair was on fire, I would go and check out what you were saying about something, and it was really level-headed, really solid commentary. So I highly recommend everybody follows you over on X. But is there anything else that you're working on that you'd like to share? Website, whatever you'd like, go ahead and plug now.
Yeah, thank you, Austin. So people can go to patrickcasey.com. That's where I do my podcast. I occasionally write articles there. Usually I publish in, someone else's publication, essentially. But yeah, at Restore Order USA on Twitter and patrickcasey.com.
There we go, patrickcasey.com. Patrick, great stuff, man. Thanks for getting up early and for making some time with our audience today. It looks like they really appreciate it in the comments.
I enjoyed it, Austin. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. That's Patrick K.
When the Founding Fathers dreamed of liberty, they forgot one thing: coffee. Introducing Founding Flavors Coffee, the brew that built America, and the brew that's fueling a new revolution, one kitchen at a time. Small batch roasted, Patriot approved, and disappearing faster than a red coat at Yorktown. Don't get left behind, soldier. Real patriots are starting their mornings with Founding Flavors. And trust us, freedom tastes better with a fresh cup in your hand. Stop drinking those tyrant brews who take your money and don't support your values. Stocks are limited, demand is booming, and your morning deserves a taste of liberty. Order now at forlibertyshop.com before the next shipment gets signed, sealed, and sold out. Founding Flavors Coffee, the official brew of morning rebellions everywhere. Get yours at forlibertyshop.com.
Net favorable among New York Democrats. Look at this difference. Look at this difference. The net favorable rating for Ocasio-Cortez among New York Democrats, plus 46 points. Compare that to Chuck Schumer, who's only at plus 16 points. She is running 30 points ahead of Chuck Schumer, the Democratic leader in the United States Senate, among her and his constituents here in the state of New York. My goodness gracious, what we are talking about is if Ocasio-Cortez decides, you know what, I don't want to run for president, I want to challenge Chuck Schumer in a 2028 Democratic primary for United States Senate, these numbers suggest that that primary challenge could be very, very real. And a lot of the numbers I'm seeing right now suggest she would actually be a favorite at this point if she in fact decides to take on Chuck Schumer. Again, this is a guy who was first elected to the United States Senate back in 1998, and now she's got a real chance to knock him off. What we're talking about is new days are here, especially for the very liberal part of the Democratic Party. It is their time to shine, at least if we're looking at the data.
From bad to worse. Good morning. Good morning. Rise in freedom. All right, ladies and gentlemen, grab your phones, pour another cup of Jeffersonian Java, because it's time for the great Grift Off. Oh, yes. First time rolling it out today. The great Grift Off. Guess what? Austin already destroyed it. Austin already screwed it up, and we have to set it all back up again. I don't know why I did that. I closed the game. Womp womp. If you are a player in the game, here's how it works. This is where the Wake Up America show becomes part game show, part free market experiment, okay? We're about to play a real game for real prizes on the show. Are you smarter than a fifth grader? And you can play too. We've got room for up to 50 players. Anyone who made a donation today is eligible to play. Please be patient. Brad Beckman's tuning in right now. He's about to work harder and faster than he's ever worked in his life as he gets the new code to all of the contestants and players. Sorry. Womp womp. Womp womp, womp womp womp. So here's how it's going to work. I am going to start the game right now, as I'm doing right now. You can't see it just yet, but now I have a new pin. It's the same website. It's just a new game room. I'm sending the pin over to Brad. Brad's going to text it over to everybody who needs to play right now, and they'll have to back out, refresh, and get that code. It sounds really complicated. It's really not. So this is where the Wake Up America show becomes part free market experiment and part good old-fashioned American chaos. So here's how it works. Everyone who has donated or sent a rant to the show is eligible to play. Everyone who's donated is eligible to play. I see you guys are hopping in, two of 50 players already. So if you're already there, then you're in the arena, baby. All you have to do now is log on to your phone or tablet using the link crowdparty.app. Now, how do you log in? You need the code. In order to get the code, you have to text the show. If you got that text line down there and you want to play because you donated today, you're eligible to play. Text that phone line, 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. We're missing Andy Opperman. I know he wants to play. Andy, if you're here, make sure you check that text line. Andy, love for BB. Yeah, exactly. He's now working faster than he's ever worked in his life. And we're about to play Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? And it should be a lot of fun. Now, I'm pretty sure this is our first time doing this, so we're experimenting with this new technology. Please be patient as we work through some of the challenges, right? And of course, BB says, give the man some time to give kudos, damn it. Absolutely. So we've got 7 players now. Has everybody who made a donation this morning who's eligible to play gotten their text code? If you did not, please speak now in the chat or forever hold your peace. I will press a button to play out a song in order to... Where's my Squid Game button? Come on, there it is. Do. You're gonna... Now, it should show the question on your phone. It might not. Again, this is a new technology, so you might have to look at the screen for the show in order to see the questions. I will shout it out. I will read it out loud to give you the best chance I can for you to be able to have the best chance to win. Everybody who plays today is going to be a winner. But one person today is going to go home with a lucky grand prize from the shop. And I'm going to click start the game. We're going to let's play, and we are now in the great grift off mode. Dun, 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 dun. The abbreviation RSVP is Dutch, Spanish, English, or French. The abbreviation RSVP, 8 seconds. RSVP is Dutch, Spanish, English, or French. The abbreviation RSVP is Dutch, Spanish, English, French. No one got that one. Wah, wah. There will be 12 rounds of this question and answer. The Great Grift Off Liberty Loot Live. Leaderboard, no one. Everybody's at 0. Whoops. Hey, if we end it with 0, we'll start again. We'll play until somebody wins. What is the largest internal organ in the human body? Skin, stomach, liver, or lungs? The largest internal organ in the human body. Skin, stomach, liver, or lungs? Largest internal organ. Answer, liver. Liver, got a point. Let's see. Dirty Hippie now in the number 1 place, competing for that prize from the shop. How many teaspoons are in 5 tablespoons? 12, 15, 10, or 7.5? How many teaspoons are in 5 tablespoons? 12, 15, 10, 7.5. 15 was the answer, and no one got it. Siggy's mom says she's having a little technical problem. These are timing out on me before you ask the question. I'll tell you what, we'll play 2 rounds today and you'll all be eligible to win. We'll give away 2 prizes today. Andy, if he says he has too much lag, it's because is it not showing the question on your phone? So here's what we'll do for you guys. We'll play this round. We'll give away a grand prize to the winner of this game, since we had technical ones, and we'll play another round. I'll automatically invite you all back again, and we'll play a second round, and it'll have the questions on your phone, and we'll give away 2 prizes today. How's that sound? Dirty Hippie holding up at number 1. What shape is a stop sign? Octagon, decagon, hexagon, or pentagon? What shape is a stop sign? Octagon, decagon, hexagon, pentagon. What shape is a stop sign? Octagon, decagon, hexagon, or pentagon? That's octagon. Somebody got a point. Dirty Hippie number 1. Siggismon coming up at number 2. Still a chance to win. It's only round 5. Who invented the light bulb in 1879? Albert Einstein, Alexander Graham Bell, Joseph Swan, and Benjamin Franklin. So I see you guys are not getting the questions on your phone. Don't worry, guys. We'll play another round, and we'll put the questions on your phone. So there'll be 2 rounds for you to play today. Joseph Swan invented the light bulb in 1879. Somebody else said Benjamin Franklin in 1879. Could be just some guesses. Dirty Hippie, Siggy's mom, number 1 and number 2. Looks like the next question, the mountain range that includes Mount Everest is called the Andes, the Alps, the Himalayas, or the Appalachian Mountains? The Andes, the Alps, the Himalayas, the Appalachian Mountains. Does each answer only let one person pick it? Asked Steelbringer. Nope. More than one people can pick it. If more than one person gets the right answer, then then you still get the points. The Himalayas. Number 1, Dirty Hippie. Number 2, Siggy's mom. Number 3, I Like Ike. Don't worry, guys. We're going to play another round, so you'll have another chance to win. I just want you guys to learn how the game is played for the future. The energy of a moving object is also called momentum, mechanical energy, kinetic energy, or gravity. It is kinetic energy, and someone got a point. I'll bet it's that Dirty Hippie. Oh, I Like Ike. Coming up strong at number 2. Whoa, putting some heat on To travel from New York to London, you fly over which ocean? The Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, the Indian Ocean, or the Arctic Ocean? To travel from New York to London, you fly over which ocean? Atlantic, Pacific, Indian, or Arctic? Which one? It's the Atlantic. All right. 3 people guessed the Pacific. From New York to London? Guys. To travel from New York to London. Leaderboard, I Like Ike, coming in very strong. I can't slow down, unfortunately, but I can play another round where I will slow down. This one, unfortunately, goes this fast. How many months in the calendar have exactly 30 days? 8, 4, 5, or 6? Answer 4. Nobody got that one. Womp womp. I Like Ike, number 1. We've got 9, 10, 11, 12. Just a few more questions left in this round. Don't worry, we will play again. What do you call a group of crows? Unkindness, a flock, a murder, or a huddle? 5 seconds. What do you call a group of crows? Unkindness, a flock, a murder, a huddle. A murder. 4 people got that one. I Like Ike coming out strong in front of Dirty Hippie. 2 more questions. Tulips grow from bulbs, seeds, heads, or sprouts? Tulips grow from bulbs, seeds, heads, or sprouts? Bulbs, 2. Let's see. 1 more question. 1 more round. I Like Ike looks like he might clinch it, but you got one last chance to get up there. Last round is... Animals without backbones are called vertebrates, amphibians, anabolics, or invertebrates. Animals without backbones are called vertebrates, amphibians, anabolics, or invertebrates. Answer, invertebrates. And 4 people guessed it. Let's see who the winner was. Game over. The winner was I Like Ike, number 1. So, Brad, make sure you text I Like Ike, and we're going to give him a free t-shirt from the Grift Shop. Now, we're going to play again. This time, I'm going to change the rules, the settings. And the settings are going to be so that you guys can see the questions on your phone. So it'll be a little bit more fair, and then I won't make so many stupid mistakes. Okay, so. We are going to invite the players from the last game. We are going to show the questions on the players' devices this time. We are going to play again. We're going to click start. You should have gotten an invitation to play the second game, and we're going to give away another prize for this game as well. Will now appear on your phone. We're waiting for the 6 players who played last round, and anybody can jump in and play if they really want to by making a Rumble Rant donation or a purchase at the shop. That's how you get your entries to the game, and we're learning how to play it today and having fun. We're giving away 2 grand prizes today. Isn't that nice? Brad will text you after the show to send you your code so that you can get a free product from the Grift Shop. You can get your own free Doth Not Tread on Me shirt or a Pineapple Before Party shirt. We've got 6 people. It's not the same code. You should have gotten an invitation quest. I'll wait. See that you're in the chat, so you should be ready to go. You guys will now get the questions on your phones. So this is how it ideally should be played to give everybody the best chance, and this is how I should do it This is how I should in the future, so that I'm not make boneheaded mistakes. I do see that you are in there. We are going to play. We're going to start the round. I see quest is in there, and you will check your phones, and it should show you the questions so that you can have the best chance to win. Are we ready to play? Are we ready to play? Let's do it. Okay. We're going to unmute the music, unmute the sound effects, unmute the voiceover even. Let's see how it all sounds when it's legit. Ready? Here we go. Starting the game. Let's play.
The plural of moose is
meese, the plural of
mooses, moose or moose.
The plural of moose. Meese, mooses, moose, or moose. Round 2 of the Great Grift Off Liberty Loot Live. Dirty Hippie number 1, Siggy's Mom number 2, Amy Ew. This is going to be a lot closer round.
Earth is located in what galaxy?
Earth is
the
located
Andromeda,
in what galaxy?
the Solar System, the Milky Way, or the Baby Boom?
Dirty Hippie and Siggy's Mom.
How many months in the calendar year have exactly 30 days? 8, 6, 4, or 5?
Got this question last round. Ooh, 4.
What does a paleontologist study? Dinosaurs, diets, plants, or ancient life?
Ooh, 4 people said dinosaurs. Dinosaurs. Ancient life, obviously. We're going to roast you. Dirty Hippie number 1, Amy E number 2.
What is the largest internal organ in the human body?
Largest internal
Stomach,
organ.
lungs, liver, or skin?
Ooh, liver. You knew Amy was going to get that one.
How many letters are in the English alphabet? 24, 26, 28, or 27?
Ooh, only one doofus entered 27. Who was it? Who answered that? Just kidding. Dirty Hippie and Amy Easley and Quest Fanning all fighting.
The words the and an a are known as pronouns, adverbs, articles, or prepositions.
Oh, Dirty Hippie. He really wants it really bad.
Tulips grow from seeds, bulbs, heads, or sprouts.
Heads. Can tell it was voiced by a New Zealander. Oh, Amy, you're creeping up.
The most consumed beverage in the world after water is Coke, orange juice, coffee, or tea. How many nouns are in the sentence "the cat walked into the room and sat on the couch"? 4, 1, 3, or 2?
Come on, Amy. At least Amy's like so
close.
The
words fee fi fo fuma from this fairy tale. Jack and the Beanstalk, Little Red Riding Hood, Shrek, or Princess and the Pea.
Everybody said Jack and the Beanstalk. Good job, guys. Dang, it's going to be close. Hippie's got to make a mistake, and Amy's got to get them all right. Here we go.
How many grams are in 1,000 kilograms? 10,000, 100,000, 10 million, or 1 million?
It was 1 million. Everybody got it wrong. Everybody got it wrong. Here we go. Let's see who it was. I think we all know the Dirty Hippie has won. Nice job, Amy. You really gave him hell. Siggy's mom, Quest, Joel, Andy, I Like I. Congratulations, guys. Thanks so much for playing the Great Grift Off live. We obviously got some bugs that we're working out, but it's fun. You can play from home. I'll make sure that the questions are on your phones in the future. That is going to be the bonus content. We'll play it again tomorrow with Stephanie, and hopefully Justin will be with us as well. Everybody says effing metric. Yeah. And Are You Smarter Than Fifth Grader isn't the only game. There's like dozens of fun games that we're going to be able to play together, and you'll win real prizes. Today, we're going to give away 2 shirts from the Grift Shop. So if you were Dirty Hippie or you were the winner of the other one, I think was it Ike. Yeah. And get your free t-shirt. So just text us back. Brad will get your address. We'll ship you whichever shirt you want from the shop. Yeah, it's a nice game. It's a lot of fun. So this is the new bonus content, phase 2. We're going to play it sort of for free for a little while until you guys kind of figure it out. And then in the future, it'll be the second phase of the bonus content. That's what we've been working on the last couple of weeks. Brad and I have been busting our butts, trying to make it easy and fun. But everybody who contributes to the show gets to play, and everybody who plays gets something. So it's the Great Grift Off. We're all grifting from each other. Liberty Loot Live. Thanks so much for supporting what we do over here. It is a silly shirt show with serious news, as we like to say. Steelbringer, where would we be without you? Where would we be without Andy Opperman or Quest Fanning or Ike Giving a Shits or Drew Van Runkle? That was chaotic good, he says. Exactly. That's what I've always considered my alignment to be, my Dungeons and Dragons alignment. We'll see you guys right back again here tomorrow. It's Thursday, which means tonight is Culturama. Rumble.com/Culturama. Watch Daniela Pensack. She's Marilyn Monroe with a master's degree, and she's going deep tonight. Rumble.com/Culturama. And what network is that on, guys? It's on, oh yeah, it's on the 4 Liberty Network. As you exit, where do we exit? Through the Grift Shop at thegriftshop.com. Buy a box of Founding Flavors coffee. It's delicious. Siggy's mom went and got Benjamin Franklin's electric elixir today. She's a smart cookie. She knows that it's like top 3 for me. The number 1 seller in the shop is Jeffersonian Java, but my personal taste preference is Thomas's Painkiller coffee. It's Colombian single origin. Get it before they tariff it away, and we'll see you guys right back again here tomorrow. It's the Wake Up America show, and we're on the 4 Liberty Network. You rock. Bye, guys.
Algospeak, how social media is transforming the future of language. The kids these days have a lot of silly euphemisms. Porn becomes corn. Sex becomes segs. Nipples are nip-nops, and a picture of an eggplant can stand in for a penis. Killing someone becomes unaliving them, and people Kermit Sewerslied instead of committing suicide. Everything slightly risque or unpleasant becomes baby talk. But not because teens are overgrown infants. It's a bottom-up response to top-down censorship. As social media has become a bigger part of modern life, platforms have adopted elaborate policies to appease advertisers and politicians who might not be happy with the content that people organically share. Besides simply deleting content and banning creators, sites can subtly nudge users, algorithmically promoting certain sorts of content while demoting others. The policies are often frustratingly opaque, but many users have figured out well what will or won't anger the invisible censor. That doesn't stop them from talking about taboo topics. For the younger generation, social media is often the first and only place to learn about various elements of the world they live in, and sometimes those elements include sex, drugs, violence, and politics. So teenagers have come up with an elaborate system of cheeky substitutes for words that would otherwise get their content shadow banned. Emojis and wordplay form a language. Adam Alexic explores this algospeak in a book of the same name. Alexic runs Etymology Nerd, a popular TikTok channel that explores linguistics and the broader social issues around language. He learned through trial and error what the algorithm would reward and punish. For example, when he made a video analyzing the controversy around the slogan, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," he found his view count shrank by 90%. So much for politicians' claims that China was using TikTok to push anti-Israel incitement. In another video, Alexic discussed how the word fascism and a slur for gay men came from the same Latin root, fascies, meaning a bundle of sticks. Even though he was careful to self-censor by spelling the slur as effigat, the app still caught on and threatened to suspend him for homophobic language. Thus, the need for creative workarounds. As Alexic notes, minced oaths and rhyming slang are not new. God damn it to hell became gosh darn it to heck in the vocabulary of religious Christians, and ass became bottle and glass in the Cockney dialect. But the new euphemistic treadmill is far more artificially driven. Someone might use a minced oath because they believe it is impolite or impious to curse in public. Kids today say unalive because a faceless institution will punish them for saying kill. On one hand, algospeak could be interpreted as a straightforward example of censorship failing. Neither outright repression nor subtle incentives can get people to stop talking about the things they care about. Teenagers in particular are pretty savvy at getting around rules that they don't respect. Speech always finds a way. On the other hand, isn't it a little disturbing that American kids are being trained to talk like subjects of a dictatorship? That teens have recreated from first principles the kinds of veiled metaphors and hushed tones familiar to people hiding from the secret police? Worse still, this self-censorship is largely voluntary. For the most part, Americans are not in danger of police dragging them out of their houses for violating social media guidelines. Stimulation, attention, and the prospect of perhaps making some money from that attention are enough to get users caring about the demands of the algorithm. Then again, social media is where the hip conversations happen now. People who want to be a part of those conversations have to be on social media, and that means working around the arbitrary and ever-changing demands of its custodians. At the end of the day, the algorithm is not primarily a political tool. It is a formula for figuring out which users are most likely to engage with which content, allowing social media companies to sell hyper-targeted ads. AlgoSpeak documents the symbiotic relationship between advertising and the proliferation of tiny online subcultures. Would you describe your fashion sense as goblin core? How about cybergoth? The algorithm can find you both like-minded people and products to buy. AlgoSpeak sometimes veers into woke cliches that feel about 5 years out of date. The concept of cool began as a concealed act of resistance against the straight white norms of the English language. Alexic writes in a chapter titled "It's Giving Appropriation." The chapter gives a fairly value-neutral assessment of how slang develops in minority subcultures and enters mainstream culture, but Alexic declares this harmful to minorities. Paradoxically, he goes on to complain that mainstream society is not accepting enough of slang and minority dialects. Despite his political leanings, Alexic documents well how both the censorship and the subcultures trying to escape it cut across political lines. Incels and body positivity advocates both play the same game. So do LGBT activists and homophobes. Users replace white with YT and a slur for black people with ninja. Alexic notes the paradox in trying to censor sensitive words, which may be used as either self-descriptors or slurs, and the ways trolls exploit the inflexible nature of content moderation. Rather than making hateful content that'll get immediately removed, he writes, bigots will often opt to mass report videos of creators they dislike. Some users contend with competing censorship regimes. Much has been said about the ways that TikTok, founded by a Chinese company, has to answer to the Chinese authorities. A problem that ironically became a justification for banning TikTok in America. Alexic addresses cases of TikTok censoring topics that are sensitive in China, such as the Hong Kong protests and the repression of Uyghurs. He also mentions censorship in the other direction. Instagram, for example, once shadow banned the journalist Azmat Khan, whose New York Times coverage of U.S. military cover-ups won her a Pulitzer Prize. Meta, the parent company, claims it was an accident. These problems, though many of them have political causes, don't have a clear political solution. Often, political pressure just causes censorship to swing in the other direction. Republicans who once railed against government intervention in social media moderation now pressure companies to help them root out the cancer of political radicalism. Democrats now waving the flag of free speech may soon return to demanding that dangerous misinformation be stomped out. While public pressure may cause a few figures to be unbanned, risk-averse companies generally find it easier to censor everything than to allow everything. But the overall message of AlgoSpeak should be reassuring from a libertarian perspective. Just let things be, the book seems to say. If people want to talk about something, they will find a way. Social media only accelerates